Chapter 12:12. The mermaid, who was draped in the sacred garment of faith, had an extremely exquisite face. This face still looked like Lin Yuan's. However, the lines on Lin Yuan's face were now extremely soft. If Lin Yuan's previous handsomeness was only an 8 out of 10, it was his comfortable temperament that raised his handsomeness to a 9 out of 10. Now that the lines on his face had softened, he could completely oppress those human men or women who were recognized as very good-looking. It would not be accurate to describe Lin Yuan's face as extremely beautiful or extremely handsome. Perhaps only the face of faith, which was formed from the deepest love and worship in his heart, could accurately describe his current appearance. Lin Yuan stared at the astonished Bai Yan, who was in mid-air with a face of disbelief. Lin Yuan's long hair, which was filled with the power of faith, fluttered without any wind. The dense power of faith once again propped up the barrier, covering the entire territory and the swamp in front of it. The pressure formed by Bai Yan's power of faith was like a weak baby to the barrier formed by Lin Yuan's power of faith in the soul shrine. He looked at Lin Yuan's appearance and felt his body made of the power of faith. Bai Yan subconsciously muttered, "Faith, body of faith? Lord Hegemon." After spitting out the words Lord Ruler, Bai Yan's aura immediately weakened. However, Bai Yan's eyes were still filled with sorrow as he looked at the white scale armor fragments at Lin Yuan's feet. However, no matter how sorrowful Bai Yan was, he didn't dare to do anything disrespectful to Lin Yuan. For any apostle, rulers were supreme existences. This was a suppression of the hierarchy of life. Even if Bai Yan believed that his son had been killed by Lin Yuan, he still didn't dare to lower his head. Of course, that was only if Bai Yan didn't receive the blessings of the other sovereigns. In the dimensional world, there had always been a rule where kings did not meet kings. It was even rarer for sovereigns to face off against sovereigns. If other apostles with the ruler's favor discovered Lin Yuan and realized that Lin Yuan wasn't very strong, they would definitely kill him. He would definitely attack Lin Yuan. At that time, Lin Yuan's identity as a fake ruler would naturally be exposed during the fight. Lin Yuan's eyes flickered as he looked at Bai Yan. Upon sensing Bai Yan's respectful attitude, Lin Yuan removed his palm from the extreme token on his chest. From the looks of it, Bai Yan had been tricked by me, a fake ruler. In that case, the knowledgeable Bai Yan was like an encyclopedia regarding the swamp world to him. After Lin Yuan and Bai Lan had combined their faith possession earlier, they had an extraordinary perception of water sources. He immediately discovered the Class 2 white sin swamp crocodile hidden under the Fu Lu's body. At this moment, the white sin swamp crocodile was burying its head in the mud at the bottom of the swamp. Clearly, it was extremely afraid of Bai Yan. Lin Yuan looked at Bai Yan strangely. When Bai Yan saw the fragment of the white scale armor at his feet, the sorrow that emerged in his eyes didn't seem fake. However, the swamp crocodile was so afraid of Bai Yan. Could it be that Bai Yan was a strict elder? At this juncture, Lin Yuan couldn't possibly let the Class 2 white sin swamp crocodile continue hiding out of fear of Bai Yan. If he didn't untie the knot in Bai Yan's heart, then even if Bai Yan treated him as a ruler, he wouldn't be able to do anything. There would definitely be obstacles to communication. Lin Yuan immediately shouted, "White sin swamp crocodile, come out. I just transformed you into an apostle and you're already hiding? What's the meaning of this?" When the Class 2 white sin swamp crocodile heard Lin Yuan's soft shout and the deterrence from his massive power of faith, it immediately reacted. The Class 2 white sin swamp crocodile couldn't be bothered to be afraid of Bai Yan as it hurriedly drilled out of the water and arrived beside Lin Yuan's fishtail. The 16-meter-long level 2 swamp crocodile was like a pug right now, swinging its tail while letting out gurgling sounds. It was as though it was yearning for Lin Yuan to caress its head. When Bai Yan saw his son emerge from the swamp, his body had greatly changed. The sadness in his eyes instantly disappeared. The sadness in his eyes was replaced by surprise and anger. Very quickly, the anger in Bai Yan's eyes suppressed the pleasant surprise. If Lin Yuan was not here, Bai Yan would have probably lifted the white sin swamp crocodile up and given it a good beating. All along, Bai Yan had been extremely dissatisfied with this astonishingly talented son of his. Bai Yan was a playboy by nature. Wherever he went, he would take a liking to any female marsh crocodile. Not a single one of them could escape Bai Yan's visit. In the end, after nearly 1,000 years, Bai Yan only obtained a single descendant who inherited his mutated bloodline. Furthermore, the children who inherited his bloodline would have talent that far surpassed him. As a result, Bai Yan was extremely fond of this son that he had obtained with great difficulty. However, Bai Yan quickly discovered that something was wrong. His son could not stay idle for even a moment. As long as he was not in front of him, he would immediately slip away. He would even use his innate ability to use other marsh crocodiles to hide from him. This was fine, as it could be understood as the naughtiness of a child. However, what Bai Yan could not tolerate was that his son did not have the slightest interest in increasing his strength. Since then, Bai Yan had often used an iron hammer to educate his son. The reason why Bai Yan educated his son so harshly was because he hoped that his son would have a beautiful future. Now, this troublesome son of his had unexpectedly been transformed into an apostle by a ruler. What kind of opportunity was this? To put it bluntly, his son had the favor of a ruler and was already doing better than him. When he thought of this, the anger in Bai Yan's eyes turned into pride for his son's success. When Bai Yan looked at Lin Yuan again, apart from reverence, there was also a lot of gratitude. He recalled that the ruler was standing on the ground, while he was in midair. Bai Yan hurriedly flew down and knelt on one knee in front of Lin Yuan. He lowered his arrogant head and said, "Greetings, Lord Ruler." Bai Yan's current attitude caused Lin Yuan to be secretly shocked at the dignity of a ruler. When Bai Yan stood in front of him, he was in a completely defenseless state. This state was not an act. However, as a fake ruler, Lin Yuan did not know what a true ruler should do in such a situation. Beads of sweat appeared on Bai Yan's forehead as he did not receive a response from Lin Yuan. He wondered if the Lord Ruler looked down on him. Bai Yan was a marsh crocodile. Due to a fortuitous encounter, his bloodline had mutated into a white sin marsh crocodile. Bai Yan, who had always been arrogant, did not seem to care about his background. In fact, Bai Yan was very concerned about his background. Previously, Bai Yan had encountered a few apostles that had been favored by a ruler outside the Great Eastern Lake. Those apostles that had been favored by a ruler were weaker than him in terms of strength and power of faith. However, all of them were arrogant. Because of their bloodline, they looked at him with disdain. Chapter 12:13. When a person was born, their bloodline was determined by their parents, and they had no choice. However, if he received the favor of a ruler, then even if he was still a swamp crocodile, no one would look down on him. Bai Yan hoped that the ruler before him would bestow him with the ruler's treasure, to show his favor. However, Bai Yan, who recognized his lowly status, did not dare to mention his wish to Lin Yuan. He was afraid that his wish would be blasphemed against Lin Yuan. One did not dare to say it, and the other did not know what to do. This caused the stalemate to descend into an endless loop. Although the Class 2 swamp crocodile was afraid of Bai Yan, it was still Bai Yan's offspring. The Class 2 swamp crocodile had already started to plead for Bai Yan. Lin Yuan had a helpless expression as he listened to the swamp crocodile's plea. At that moment, a voice that made Lin Yuan feel as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders echoed. Lin Yuan heard the swamp water moss-aged voice speak to him with abnormal respect. "My lord, this crocodile is really greedy. It actually kneels here to beg for your ruler's treasure." The swamp water moss changed the topic and used a stern and arrogant voice to speak to Bai Yan. "Heh, if you want to ask for our lord ruler's treasure, don't you know how to show respect to our lord ruler first?" In the past, the swamp water moss would not even dare to breathe loudly in front of Bai Yan. But now, relying on its relationship with Lin Yuan, the swamp water moss was like a fox borrowing the tiger's might to the extreme. As the lowest existence that preyed on plants, the swamp water moss was openly mocking Bai Yan's bloodline. The swamp water moss words seemed to have reminded Bai Yan. Bai Yan immediately took out 2 balls of rainbow light from his sleeves. Bai Yan held the 2 balls of rainbow light in his left and right hands and held them up as he spoke to Lin Yuan. "My lord, the one on the right is the source totem of the Nether Scorpion Apostle. The one on the right is the source totem that I snatched from another apostle. I do not know what kind of totem this source totem is formed from. These two source totems are currently the most precious things I have on me. I hope my lord will kindly accept them. Upon hearing Bai Yan's words, Lin Yuan realized that sacred source life forms were called source totems in the swamp world. Lin Yuan looked at the two uncontracted sacred source life forms in Bai Yan's hands covetously. However, Lin Yuan did not immediately take the sacred source life form from Bai Yan. He pretended to be nonchalant as he spoke to the swamp moss. "Swamp moss, you sure know a lot. I can't believe you know what a sovereign treasure is." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's compliment, the swamp water moss hurriedly replied with joy, "That's right. Sir, when I was following that stinky scorpion once made me a carpet in its cave. Coincidentally, I overheard that stinky scorpion talking about the ruler's treasure. It said that the sovereign's treasure is a treasure that was separated from the sovereign's body. Every sovereign's treasure has a different function. However, it is rumored that the ruler's treasure can provide the apostle with a boost in power, something the apostles yearn for even in their dreams. This is what I've heard. I wonder if that stinky scorpion is right. That stinky scorpion doesn't have the right to come into contact with a sovereign. Exalted One, what exactly is a sovereign treasure? You're the one who knows best what it does." Lin Yuan's eyes suddenly lit up after being flattered by the swamp water moss. The ruler's treasure could only provide a boost to the apostles and was separated from the sovereign's body. Wasn't the source water's water of faith compatible with the ruler's treasure's ability? The water of faith was a warm stream brewed from the power of faith. It could nourish life forms that used the power of faith as a source of power. The water of faith could also promote life forms that used the power of faith as a source of power to quickly recover the consumed power of faith and slowly increase the power of faith in the body. At the same time, the water of faith could be divided and then absorbed back into the body. He could also obtain the power of faith equivalent to the target's water of faith. At that thought, Lin Yuan looked up at Bai Yan's eyes. He found that Bai Yan's eyes were filled with reverence and pure desire. It was like an ignorant fey craving for pure spirit qi. The moment Bai Yan and Lin Yuan's eyes met, Bai Yan was immediately enchanted by Lin Yuan's azure eyes. Then Bai Yan blushed and lowered his head. As an apostle with above-average power of faith, Bai Yan was already incomparably handsome when he used the sacred source body. The sacred source body was an ability that the apostles obtained after their life rating increased. It was a manifestation of life evolution. Therefore, the apostles' sacred source bodies were not ugly. When Bai Yan had traveled outside the great marsh of the east, he had seen many apostles using the sacred source bodies. Bai Yan had even been fortunate enough to catch a glimpse of the radiant star apostle, who was known as the most beautiful apostle in the eastern marsh area. Since then, Bai Yan had never forgotten about the radiant star apostle. But now, compared to Lin Yuan, the radiant star apostle was instantly reduced to dust. Even when the radiant star apostle was smiling, it was as if she was bathing in the light of the stars. It was not as breathtaking as Lin Yuan's expressionless swing of his lower body's fishtail. Only God knew how many powerful apostles in the eastern marsh area fawned upon the radiant star apostle's sacred source body. In order to obtain the radiant star apostle's favor, they would do everything they could. If these people were fortunate enough to see the Lord Ruler's grace under the body of faith and then see the radiant star apostle's sacred source body, they would definitely not be so envious. Suddenly, Bai Yan had the idea of suggesting that Lin Yuan participate in the Eastern Marsh Area's beauty contest. The first place of the Eastern Marsh Area's beauty contest was qualified to obtain a residence in the Eastern Marsh Palace. However, when Bai Yan thought of Lin Yuan's Lord Ruler identity, he dispelled the idea. Suddenly, Bai Yan felt Lin Yuan's unfathomable power of faith suddenly boil in front of him. The power of faith hidden in the water diffused outside the water, covering Lin Yuan's mermaid body with a sunset glow. Facing the marsh world's gentle breeze, the faith gauze robe fluttered behind Lin Yuan for dozens of kilometers. The range of the faith gauze robe fluttering had already exceeded the size of Lin Yuan's territory. Lin Yuan was also shocked by the power of his power of faith with all his strength. Lin Yuan had never used the power of faith with all his strength in the real world. However, Lin Yuan felt that even if he used the power of faith with all his strength in the real world, he would never cause such a huge commotion. It should be because the power of faith was more compatible with the dimensional world's origins. At that moment, Lin Yuan used the power of faith with all his strength to use Blue's water of faith. When he used water of faith, Lin Yuan was still a little perturbed. He did not know if Bai Yan would really treat water of faith as the Lord Ruler's treasure after seeing it. Suddenly, Lin Yuan felt his chest heat up. A stream of amber-like meandering water gushed out of Lin Yuan's chest. End of this chapter. Chapter 12:14. This stream of water surged out of Lin Yuan's body without stopping. It looked rather special. This meandering stream of water was the water of faith. Lin Yuan held the water of faith in his hand and threw it to Bai Yan, who was kneeling on one knee in front of him, without saying a word. Lin Yuan's expression seemed indifferent, but he was actually very flustered. Bai Yan was pleasantly surprised when he received the water of faith. Then, his eyes were filled with astonishment. It was as though he had seen something unbelievable. Lin Yuan's originally flustered heart immediately tensed up. Could it be that Bai Yan discovered something after receiving the water of faith? If Bai Yan really discovered something wrong and became suspicious, then I will have to use the extreme token. Just as Lin Yuan was about to use his spiritual power to activate the extreme token, Bai Yan once again knelt on one knee and continuously thanked him. Thank you, Lord Ruler, for bestowing the ruler's treasure. Bai Yan didn't expect the ruler's treasure to have such a powerful effect. Bai Yan lost his composure. Lord Ruler, please don't blame me. Looking at Lord Ruler's situation, I believe Lord Ruler should have stepped into the rebirth cycle. Lord Ruler, please allow Bai Yan to guard by your side. Hearing Bai Yan's words, Lin Yuan's expression did not change. However, he memorized all the important information in Bai Yan's words in his heart. Lin Yuan did not understand what the words, stepped into the rebirth cycle meant. However, it was obviously not appropriate to ask Bai Yan at this time. At the same time, Lin Yuan secretly considered whether keeping Bai Yan by his side was worth it. After some consideration, Lin Yuan gave up on the idea of keeping Bai Yan by his side. Keeping Bai Yan by his side was indeed equivalent to increasing his combat power. However, Lin Yuan could not bring Bai Yan's combat power to the origin world. Moreover, there was no contract between him and Bai Yan. The current relationship was maintained because Bai Yan regarded him as the ruler. If she kept Bai Yan by her side for a long time, it was very likely that Bai Yan would discover something. Thus, he would doubt the authenticity of his identity as the ruler. Lies could not withstand scrutiny. Thus, sending Bai Yan away was Lin Yuan's best choice. Bai Yan, since you said you want to follow me, why don't you take over the Dark Scorpion Apostle's territory? The Dark Scorpion Apostle is dead, but the Dark Scorpion Apostle's territory cannot be without a ruler. Hearing Lin Yuan's words, Bai Yan's face revealed an obvious dejected expression. It seemed like Lin Yuan did not intend to keep her by his side. Immediately after, Bai Yan carefully pondered over the Dark Scorpion Apostle's territory situation and said to Lin Yuan, Lord Ruler, the territory of the Dark Scorpion Apostle is right outside your territory. If you want to enter your territory, you have to pass through the territory of the Dark Scorpion Apostle. I will guard the first line of defense for you in the territory of the Dark Scorpion Apostles. After saying that, Bai Yan glanced at his son, who had been acting like a spoiled child and rolling around Lin Yuan to plead for him. As expected of his biological son, he knew to side with his father. When Bai Yan thought about how his son had such a fortuitous encounter at such a young age, he tried to fight for it with Lin Yuan. Sir, after I've reorganized the territory of the Dark Scorpion Apostles, I plan to expand the territory. It would be best if we can take control of the entire Eastern Lake. It won't be convenient to have that brat Bai Xian by my side when we expand our territory. I wonder. Upon seeing Bai Yan's hesitant expression, Lin Yuan immediately knew what he was thinking. Lin Yuan did not intend to let Bai Yan take the Class 2 White Sin Swamp Crocodile away. The development of Lin Yuan's territory could not do without the help of the Class 2 White Sin Swamp Crocodile. If he let Bai Yan take the Class 2 White Sin Swamp Crocodile, where would he find laborers for his territory? How would he develop his underwater combat strength? Although Lin Yuan had already made up his mind, he did not immediately agree to Bai Yan's request. Instead, he changed the topic. Do you have a way to obtain the source totem? Upon hearing Lin Yuan mention the origin totem, Bai Yan hurriedly handed the 2 sacred source life forms in his hands to Lin Yuan. This time, Lin Yuan did not refuse and accepted the 2 sacred source life forms. Lin Yuan stored the unknown sacred source life form into the amber button-shaped diamond phase storage box. As for the sacred source life form transformed from the dark scorpion apostle totem, Lin Yuan stored it in the spirit lock spatial zone, intending to mark it. Since the sacred source life form was transformed from the totem after the apostle's death, even if the sacred source life form was shrouded in rainbow light, it could not be detected. He could still use the appearance of the totem and the ability of the sacred art under the sacred source body to determine the condition of the sacred source life form. That way, he would be able to know what the sacred source life form would look like after it was contracted. Seeing that Lin Yuan was asking him a question, Bai Yan hurriedly spilled everything he knew like pouring beans out of a bamboo tube. There are 2 ways to obtain source totems. The first is to kill an apostle who can activate the source holy body. Apostles who can activate the sacred origin body will leave behind source totems that correspond to their own totems after death. The other method is to go to the only region in the East Marsh region that only apostles are allowed to enter, the East Marsh Circle, and conduct the transaction at the Myriad Palace in the East Marsh Circle. In the Myriad Palace, you can bring any item to the appraiser for evaluation. The appraiser will determine the price. Then, you can use the priced goods in the Myriad Palace to exchange for goods. At this point, Bai Yan paused for a moment. Seeing that Lin Yuan indicated for him to continue speaking, Bai Yan carefully said to Lin Yuan, "The Myriad Palace is not a local power in the East Marsh Circle. However, the Myriad Palace has a higher status than the East Marsh Circle's 10 apostles. This is because the Myriad Palace was established by the ruler of myriad things. The myriad palaces established by the ruler of myriad things are spread throughout the various regions of the marsh world. In fact, as long as you have enough goods in the myriad palace that have been evaluated by the myriad envoy, you can exchange them for the ruler of myriad treasures." Based on Bai Yan's answer, Lin Yuan roughly knew how to obtain sacred source life forms in the marsh world. Compared to passively waiting for Class 5-dimensional rifts to open in the main world, obtaining sacred source life forms through Class 5-dimensional rifts was much easier. It was undoubtedly much easier to obtain sacred source life forms in the marsh world. At the same time, Bai Yan's words confirmed Lin Yuan's guess. The apostle's power of faith had to be below average in order to be able to use the sacred source body and possess a sacred arts ability. Only after death could the totem turn into a sacred source life form. Lin Yuan secretly noted down the information about the East Marsh Circle, East Marsh Palace, Myriad Palace, and the ruler of myriad things. Lin Yuan knew that with his current strength, it was still too far for him to set foot in the East Marsh Circle. Also, to be on the safe side, even if he wanted to set foot in the East Marsh Circle in the future, he absolutely could not enter as a ruler. Otherwise, he might cause trouble that he would not be able to handle. In the East Marsh Circle, any ruler faction's branch had a higher status than the East Marsh Palace. It was obvious that there were no rulers in the entire East Marsh Circle. Chapter 12:15. Today's experience made Lin Yuan realize that the swamp world was not a chaotic and disorderly world ruled by apostles. A larger and more perfect world appeared in front of Lin Yuan. It ignited Lin Yuan's desire to explore and gallop. In the following conversation with Bai Yan, Lin Yuan also learned how source-type items came about. There were 2 types of source-type items. One was that apostles who had not activated their sacred source bodies would turn into source-type items after death. The other type was an apostle with powerful or above faith power. The believers or blessings they received had the possibility of turning into source-type items after death. Of course, The possibility of blessings becoming source-type items was much higher than apostles. These source-type items were called believers' remnant thoughts in the swamp world. They were also sold in the Myriad Palace in the Swamp East Circle. However, Lin Yuan did not need to spend much effort to obtain source-type items in the Myriad Palace. Therefore, there was no need to exchange for source-type items in the Myriad Palace. Unless Lin Yuan could encounter a source-type item with strategic significance like the demon's heart again. Otherwise, it would be better to exchange for sacred source life forms than to exchange for ordinary source-type items. Sacred source life forms were not something that could be exchanged for with money in the origin world. After understanding the situation, Lin Yuan immediately sent Bai Yen to the Dark Scorpion Apostle's territory. Lin Yuan had also ordered Bai Yen to return to his territory once every month. Lin Yuan took advantage of the monthly opportunity to learn about the development of the Dark Scorpion Apostle's territory from Bai Yen. On the other hand, it was convenient for Lin Yuan to recover the water of faith he had given to Bai Yen to increase his power of faith. He also gave new water of faith to Bai Yen. This sudden storm was considered to have come to an end, and Lin Yuan had a huge harvest in this storm. This harvest was not only the 2 uncontracted sacred source life forms, but also the information about the swamp world that Lin Yuan knew. Lin Yuan had spent at least a few hours in the swamp world. It was not difficult for Lin Yuan to use his ability to produce water of faith. Lin Yuan prepared water of faith for Wendy, Sha Teng, and the Class 2 Swamp of White Sin, Crocodile Bai Xian. Especially Bai Xian. Bai Xian, who had the crocodile worship talent, would provide Lin Yuan with power of faith in the future. This storm made him realize how important the power of faith, which he had not thought highly of, was in the dimensional world. Meanwhile, Bai Lan's strength continued to rise without a moment's pause. Given the intensity of her power of faith, she could already use her exclusive skill, Power Water Soul, to devour the strange water. He had obtained the water elemental characteristics of the strange water and turned it into a willpower rune. However, it would take a long time for Blue to obtain a willpower rune to evolve into a fantasy breed. The blue origin water was actually evolved from 12 water blobs. What looked like a single body was actually divided into 12 parts. Therefore, Bai Lan needed to obtain 12 different wills from 12 different water types. Each ball of water had to produce a willpower rune before it could be promoted to a fantasy breed. In addition, if Blue wanted to comprehend willpower from the strange water, it would require Lin Yuan's power of faith. Given Lin Yuan's current power of faith, Blue Jade could only comprehend 2 types of willpower from the strange water. Next, he had to think of a way to increase his power of faith in the main world. Harvesting the power of faith in the main world could be considered a long-term goal that Lin Yuan had set. After Lin Yuan sent the 50 questions beasts into the breeding room, he asked Lu Yenshan to guard the entrance of the breeding room. He also left a diamond fey storage box for each of the 100 questions beasts. He arranged for the largest fat orange to be the leader of these 100 questions beasts when Genius wasn't around. The 50 questions beasts would be hoarding all kinds of spirit liquids for Lin Yuan. When the floating island whale carried the sky city to soar into the sky, he would be able to build a massive resource treasury on the floating island whale's back. After arranging the 50 questions beasts, Lin Yuan called out Feng Shuang and Old He, who were locked up in his treasure cave golden toad artifact. Apart from the breeding room that the 100 questions beasts were using, the other breeding rooms were not completed yet. 50 questions beasts were placed in the only completed breeding room. Lin Yuan naturally could not let Feng Shuang and Old He use it. Feng Shuang and Old He were planning to stay outside to help the territory develop and serve the 35 spirit craftsmen. From a creation master's point of view, he would make some effective suggestions for the territory's planning. After Feng Shuang and Old He were summoned by Lin Yuan, they used their Class 4 Creation Master experience. They first realized that this might be a swamp dimensional rift. After observing for a while, Feng Shuang and Old He realized that this place did not conform to the characteristics of a dimensional rift. There were no spatial fluctuations here. Soon, the two of them were shocked and guessed that this couldn't be the swamp world, right? The two of them were very curious about how Lin Yuan had entered the swamp world. Could a Class 6 swamp dimensional rift have suddenly opened up at the location where Lin Yuan had constructed the underground palace? Lin Yuan did not have the leisure to explain to Feng Shuang and Old He how they had entered the swamp world. In short, the two of them just had to work. If they dared to be dishonest, Lu Yenshan and the slaughter butterfly would teach Feng Shuang and Old He a lesson. When Feng Shuang and Old He were outside, they could help the Medusas take care of Endless Summer's sacred source life form, the Arakoa orchid sprout. They could use the spirit liquids to improve the nutrients in the soil and slightly increase the Arakoa orchid sprout's growth rate. It could also be considered as increasing Endless Summer's strength. When Feng Shuang saw that Lin Yuan did not assign any missions to her and Old He, she quickly flipped her hair and went forward to ask, "My lord, what should we do next? Please enlighten me. Old He and I will definitely do our best to complete the mission Sir has given us." Feng Shuang kept using her body movements to express her enthusiasm and determination as she spoke. Previously, when Lin Yuan had appointed Hu Tian as the manager of the trio, Feng Shuang had been rather dissatisfied. Now, Hu Tian was left in the underground palace of the Divine Wood Federation. Feng Shuang felt that this was a good opportunity for her to perform. From Feng Shuang's point of view, compared to Old He who was not good with words, he was much better. The possibility of him obtaining Lin Yuan's favor was higher. Upon hearing Feng Shuang's question, Lin Yuan did not tell her what he was going to do in the swamp world. Instead, he waved at the nearby sky killer butterfly. Upon seeing Lin Yuan summon it, the slaughter sky butterfly arrived beside him in an instant. Lin Yuan introduced the butcher sky butterfly to Feng Shuang and Old He and said to them, "You too listen to her arrangements. Do whatever she tells you to do." Chapter 12:16. After speaking to Feng Shuang and Old He, Lin Yuan said to the slaughtering sky butterfly, "Let's go. The person I've arranged outside the cultivation room is also at the Overlord tier. If there are any dangerous situations, you can arrange for him to handle it. I've accumulated quite a lot of Heavenly Maiden level Earth Elemental Pearls. It should be enough for you to recover from your injuries." As he spoke, he took out a wooden box and placed it at the slaughter sky butterfly's feet. Lin Yuan waved his hand, and a large number of Earth-type Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls poured into the wooden chest. It almost filled the wooden chest. Then he bent down and rummaged through the wooden box. Soon, he picked up a few Earth-type Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls. In the process of searching, Lin Yuan did not find the Earth-type Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearl that contained the Heavenly Maiden germination. Feng Shuang and Old He fell into a daze as they looked at the wooden crate full of Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls. The two asked the three questions of poverty at the same time. Since when were Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls counted by boxes? How much did this chest of Heavenly Maiden-grade Earth elemental pearls cost? How many Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls did Lin Yuan have? The killer butterfly, which had seen Lin Yuan take out more Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls, was only slightly startled before returning to normal. After looking at Lu Yenshan, who was shrouded in a black robe in front of the breeding room, the slaughter sky butterfly said to Lin Yuan in a warm voice, "With these elemental pearls, I can advance from Lord Tier 10 to Monarch Tier in less than a week. Leave everything in the swamp world to me. If anything happens, I'll let Purple Firmament inform you." The butchering sky butterfly was very happy when it said this to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan had just said, "Let the Emperor-class experts in front of the breeding room handle dangerous things." Wasn't this the same as saying that Lin Yuan was concerned about her? Zi Xiao treated Lin Yuan as her father. Wouldn't that make Lin Yuan his father-in-law? It felt good to be cared for by the old man. Lin Yuan had always been low-key. The reason why he flaunted his wealth like that just now was to show off his muscles to Feng Shuang and Old He again. Let the two of them put away all the thoughts they should not have and understand that only by following him will they have a bright future. Lin Yuan had previously slapped Feng Shuang and Old He, and now he was flexing his muscles. In order to let Feng Shuang and Lao He work hard wholeheartedly, he naturally had to give them some benefits at the right time. Thus, he handed the 2 pots of golden lotus brocade beads to Feng Shuang and Old He. She saw the 2 pots of golden lotus brocade beads in Lin Yuan's hands. Feng Shuang and old he couldn't help but exclaim. Golden lotus pearl. It's actually the golden lotus brocade pearl. It could be said that all of the Radiance Federation's top factions were calculating how to obtain the golden lotus brocade pearl from the Moon Empress. As members of the Zheng family, Feng Shuang and old he were not qualified to know about the golden lotus pearl. However, Zheng Kaiyuan wanted Zheng Ji, the patriarch of the Zheng family, to allow the Zheng family to engage in a blood oath duel with Sky City. Among them, there was a lot of flattery in the Zheng clan, and among them, there was the mention of the golden lotus pearl. Feng Shuang and old he had long coveted such a creation master's sacred relic. Feng Shuang and Lao he were shocked, but they were also puzzled. Didn't the golden lotus brocade pearl belong to the Moon Empress? How could Sky City be related to the Moon Empress? He could actually obtain the golden lotus pearl. Since Lin Yuan had extra golden lotus brocade pearls for them to use, it meant that he definitely had a lot of golden lotus brocade pearls. Otherwise, with so many creation master resources in Sky City, how could the golden lotus brocade pearl fall into the hands of the 2 Zheng family's captives? Upon seeing Feng Shuang and old he's bewildered expressions after calling out the golden lotus brocade beads, Lin Yuan did not pay much attention to them. It was almost impossible for the 2 of them to leave the swamp world. Even if he guessed some secrets, he did not need to worry. This was because the 2 of them couldn't find anyone to share their secrets with in the swamp world. Lin Yuan had given Feng Shuang and old he the golden lotus brocade pearls for a reason. The golden lotus brocade beads could effectively increase the speed and success rate of Feng Shuang and Lao He's concoction process. It was the same as increasing his creation master resources. After arranging everything in the swamp world, he left the Spirit Lock spatial zone through the Klein hub. There was a time difference between the Agro continent and the Radiance continent, and there wasn't much time left before the Celestial Council would convene. After leaving the tent, Lin Yuan asked Hu Quan if he was preparing to return to the Radiance Federation. Soon, Hu Quan gave a negative answer and only asked Lin Yuan to bring a few more spirit craftsmen the next time he came back. Otherwise, he really didn't know how long it would take to build the underground palace with just these 5 spirit craftsmen. Lin Yuan stored Lu Jie in the treasure artifact made of the treasure cave golden toad's skin and stomach sac and went all the way to the depths of the underground palace. With the consumption of a large number of spatial crystals, Lin Yuan successfully returned to the return from faraway manor through the spatial tunnel. After the long-distance teleportation, Lin Yuan fell to the ground like before, feeling dizzy for a full 5 minutes. After the dizziness subsided, Lin Yuan stood up with a bitter smile and shook his head. It seems that I have to endure this long-distance teleportation often in the future. Lin Yuan, who was in the return from faraway manor's underground space, released Lu Jie from the treasure artifact made of the treasure cave golden toad's skin and stomach sac and left the underground space with him. There was a sun reflection king lotus every 100 steps in the underground space, so the underground space's environment was always bright as day. After leaving the underground space, Lin Yuan found that the Radiance Federation's sun had just risen from the east. The darkness had not completely dissipated. It was dawn. Lu Jie breathed in the air of the Radiance dawn and stretched his back. When you, the mother of Bloodbath, and the others haven't eaten my cooking for 2 days. I wonder if they miss my cooking. It's still early, so I won't return to the main residence. I plan to first go to the spirit material market and buy 3 gold rank bighead carps. I'll make a pot of fish balls with white flour and add some white pepper. The mother of Bloodbath loves to eat chicken wings. It just so happens that I'll buy some chicken wings to roast. After eating the fish balls, the white noodle chicken wings will be ready too. Upon hearing Lu Jie's words, Lin Yuan felt his saliva begin to secrete more and more. Lin Yuan secretly swallowed his saliva and said to Lu Jie, "Brother Lu, don't mention the other people in the manor. Even though I've been by your side for the past 2 days, I didn't get to taste your cooking. I really want to improve your skills." While Lu Jie went to buy fresh spiritual ingredients, Lin Yuan returned to the main residence. As soon as Lin Yuan returned to the main mansion, he saw Wen Yu sitting on the water rhinoceros leather sofa and sorting out stacks of information. His eyes were red, and it was obvious that he hadn't slept the entire night. Wen Yu raised her head abruptly when she heard the noise coming from the door. Upon seeing Lin Yuan at the main mansion's entrance, Wen Yu's face immediately revealed a look of pleasant surprise and relief. Wen Yu hurriedly handed a stack of documents to Lin Yuan and said, "That's right. Young master, in the 2 days that you were gone, many things happened in the capital. The Miao family has initiated a blood oath battle with the Ocean Tribe of Bliss, seeking monthly votes." End of chapter. Chapter 12:17. While speaking, Wen Yu yawned and rubbed her eyes. Obviously, she was very tired after a night of not sleeping. She could not help but mutter, "The Beast Creation Garden just lost 2 veteran Emperor-class experts in the blood oath battle with the Zheng family. The smart thing to do now is to lay low and not cause trouble. The Beast Creation Garden just lost 2 Emperor-level figures because of the blood oath battle between the Zheng family and Sky City. The smart thing to do now is to lay low and not cause trouble. But why does the Beast Creation Garden look like it wants to take the initiative to get involved in the trouble? I wonder what kind of trouble it is." In these troubled times, everyone's eyes are on the Beast Creation Garden, waiting for it to give an explanation. But why does the Beast Creation Garden look like it wants to get involved in the trouble? I wonder what it is doing. Could it be that the loss of 2 veteran Emperor-class experts is nothing to the Beast Creation Garden? The Blissful Ocean Clan's current situation was definitely related to him. He did not know if the Blissful Ocean Clan was stupid to not investigate the situation when there was a shortage of Aurora pollen in the market. They found out that Sky City and Immortal Garden had worked together. Instead, they pushed the blame on the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. As a veteran faction, the Blissful Ocean Clan had been causing trouble for the Beast Creation Garden. The Blissful Ocean Clan had repeatedly used this matter to poke at the Beast Creation Garden's sore spot after losing 2 Emperor-class experts in the Beast Creation Garden. Being targeted by a veteran faction, the Beast Creation Garden had lost a lot of face. When he had gone to the Beast Creation Garden previously, he had used law crystals to help the Beast Creation Garden create 7 new Emperor-class experts. The addition of Emperor-class experts would definitely make the Beast Creation Garden eager to show off its strength to suppress the negative public opinion. Therefore, the Beast Creation Garden, which should have been well-behaved, chose to fight the Blissful Ocean Clan head-on. They used the Blissful Ocean Clan to show their might again. Miao Zhenshan was the family head of the Miao family, and he could not personally participate in the blood oath battle with the Blissful Ocean Clan. If the family had participated in the blood oath battle, it would seem that the Miao family had no one else to use. It would make the other top factions look down on the Miao family. It was the same for the female Emperor-class expert who was in charge of the treasury. Therefore, the Miao family would most likely send a new Emperor-level expert to participate in the blood oath battle against the Blissful Sea Tribe. Lin Yuan did not tell Wen Yu that he had gone to the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. Hence, even if Wen Yu had extremely good strategic foresight, she could not tell what the Miao family was trying to do. Thus, Lin Yuan explained to her, "The Beast Creation Garden must have something to rely on for making such a big fuss at such a time. Not long ago, the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden made a deal with me and obtained a few rule crystals from me. Through these nomological crystals, the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden gained a total of 7 new Emperor-level powerhouses. Under the whirlpool of public opinion, the Miao family's reputation will be tarnished for helping the Zheng family with the blood oath duel. On the contrary, the 9 Emperor-level combatants of the Miao family are enough to make the other top forces realize the power of the Beast Creation Garden and want to cooperate with it. It looks like this move against the Blissful Ocean Clan has solved the Miao family's predicament." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Wen Yu's eyes suddenly widened. Only God knew how surprised she had been when she had heard that the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden had applied for the blood oath duel against the Blissful Ocean Clan. It turned out that the mastermind behind all this was Lin Yuan, who had gone to the Divine Wood Federation to train. Although her young master was not in the Radiance Federation, he had single-handedly created the Radiance Federation's big news. The Miao family's Beast Creation Garden and Sky City were mortal enemies. Wen Yu did not believe that Lin Yuan would stop after giving the Miao family 7 more emperor-level combatants. This was not in line with Lin Yuan's character at all. Wen Yu pondered for a moment, and her eyes suddenly lit up. Wen Yu asked Lin Yuan, "Young master, the Miao family's beast creation garden helped the Zheng family in the blood oath duel with Sky City. Although the Miao family lost their emperor-level experts, they never gave Sky City an explanation. Do you want to help the Blissful Ocean clan in the blood oath duel with the Miao family?" Upon hearing Wen Yu's words, Lin Yuan revealed a smile. He and Wen Yu's thoughts were quite in sync. It could be said that when Lin Yuan heard that the Beast Creation Garden had applied to carry out the blood oath duel with the Blissful Ocean clan, he immediately had such an idea. Lin Yuan had increased the number of emperor-level experts in the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden so that he could obtain world crystals from their phase. The blood oath duel initiated by the Miao family was a good opportunity for him to obtain world crystals. With the Miao family helping the Zheng family in the Beast Creation Garden, Sky City would not be affected by public opinion now that it was helping the Blissful Ocean clan against the Beast Creation Garden. Instead, it would let the other factions understand that Sky City was a faction that would take revenge. As the Sky City Lord, he could also obtain more power of faith through this matter. Of course, Sky City was not helping the Blissful Ocean clan for nothing. The Blissful Ocean clan dared to go against the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden because of the lack of Aurora pollen. The large number of angelfish of bliss dying had stimulated the Blissful Ocean clan's emotions. This kind of loss could be seen every second, and it was easy to make people mad. However, when their lives were in the hands of others, the Blissful Ocean tribe, who could not compete with the Beast Creation Garden, would definitely be afraid. At this moment, the Blissful Sea tribe was as anxious as ants on a hot pan, trying to find a way out. "Wen Yu, we don't have to contact the Blissful Ocean tribe for now. The Miao family's Beast Creation Garden has lost 2 veteran emperors, but the family head, Miao Zhinshan, is still around. The Miao family still has the highest combat power in the Beast Creation Garden. The other top forces dare to oppress the Beast Creation Garden in terms of economy and resources, but they will not be willing to help the Blissful Ocean tribe and the Miao family fight the Beast Creation Garden head-on. If the Sea of Bliss tribe can't get what they want, they will definitely turn their attention to Sky City, which has a grudge against the Beast Creation Garden. Let's just quietly wait for the Blissful Sea tribe to come to us." Wen Yu replied immediately, "Young master, after the Celestial Body meeting, I'll head to Star Web Sky City's private territory and wait for the Blissful Sea clan to come knocking on my door." Upon hearing Wen Yu's words, Lin Yuan shook his head. "Big Brother Lu is going to buy fresh ingredients. He said he's going to make fish balls and white noodles when he comes back. You've stayed up all night. After eating the fish balls and white noodles, have a good sleep. We'll convene the Celestial Body meeting after you wake up. The Celestial Body meeting will continuously consume your spiritual energy, and it'll be too much of a burden on your body if you're in a state of fatigue." Wen Yu smiled sweetly when she heard Lin Yuan's words. "Young master, wake me up if I don't wake up before 1 in the afternoon. When a person has something on his mind, he won't be able to sleep well. If Zoel Iren wakes up because of me, she won't be able to enter the Celestial Body meeting. Then our losses will be huge." End of this chapter. Chapter 12-18. During the previous Celestial Council meeting, Wen Yu, as the owner of the Celestial Council, had also checked Suel Iren's memories. Therefore, Wen Yu valued Su Iren very much. After all, a Dark Envoy who could control the entire Dark Continent was in a situation where the entire Dark Continent had fallen. He was even more important than Wang Lin, the Azure Envoy. The Azure Federation, one of the 3 great federations, was behind Wang Lin. However, as the 4th Azure Envoy of the Azure Federation, Wang Lin could not decide the fate of the Azure Federation. Zoel was a Dark Envoy elected by the 7 federations of the Dark Continent. Now that the Dark Continent had fallen, if Su Iren revealed her identity, the Dark Continent would be destroyed. He would have the right to rule the Dark Continent. In Wen Yu's eyes, Su Iren was equivalent to the entire Dark Continent. When Yu's long-term strategic vision allowed her to understand the importance of being able to legitimately control a continent. Afraid of wasting time, When Yu didn't wait to eat the fishball white noodles. Instead, she went back to her room to catch up on her sleep. After Lu Jie returned to cook, only Lin Yuan, the mother of Bloodbath, and Lu Jie were left at the table. As he listened, Zhou Luo was busy handing over to Zheng Kaiyan and collecting the Zheng family's luxury goods resources. He had already set off for Indigo Azure City. Endless summer protected Zhou Luo and listened along the way. Duan he brought the white-clothed followers to train outside, while Huquan built an underground palace in the Divine Wood Federation. Chu Ci was also improving her strength along with Tsang Yu. Therefore, it was very difficult to gather everyone in the manor. After eating, Lin Yuan gave the Fey storage box containing the ripened blood brew grapes to the mother of Bloodbath again. There was even a large pile of old leaves that had fallen from the blood brew grapevine. The mother of Bloodbath naturally took the Fey storage box that Lin Yuan handed over. The mother of Bloodbath could not help but ask Lin Yuan when it saw that the Fey storage box had several times more blood brew grapes than usual. Lin Yuan, how many blood brew grapevines do you have? Your blood brew grapes are growing way too fast. Upon hearing the mother of Bloodbath's praise, Lin Yuan smiled slightly. This was naturally thanks to Red Thorn, which had been upgraded to Fantasy V after awakening. The increase in Red Thorn's quality had significantly increased the blood energy contained in the Eye of Relinquish. Red Thorn now had 3 mouths of Relinquish. The number of Eyes of Relinquish increased by 3 times. Furthermore, Red Thorn's speed of condensing the Eye of Relinquish was much faster than before. As a result, the blood brew grapevine's growth rate had increased exponentially along with Red Thorn's Eye of Relinquish. Mother of Bloodbath, I will provide you with blood brew grapes faster in the future. You should be able to advance to Myth 3 soon, right? As he spoke, he recalled the 500 stalks of nightmare spirit peonies that he had cultivated in the Pure Land of Bliss in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan was nurturing so many nightmare spirit peonies for his master, the Moon Empress. On the other hand, it was for the mother of Bloodbath. The consumption of pure spirit chi for Gray to evolve into a favored spirit had taught him to make early preparations. The flowers of the spirit-containing peony could be stored after they were filled with spiritual energy. Storing more pure spirit chi that could be used at any time would allow him to not be overwhelmed when he needed a large amount of pure spirit chi. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the mother of Bloodbath stood up. Lin Yuan, I know that I'm very weak now and can't bear the responsibility of a path protector. But after thinking about it, I still decided to go with you to the Divine Wood Federation. Since the mother of Bloodbath was born, it could be said that the days it had lived in the Return from Faraway Manor were the most exciting days of its life. It was Lin Yuan who had let the mother of Bloodbath know that a living Fae could not only increase its strength, it could also have feelings. The youth that needed its guidance and protection in Millstone Town had grown to the point where he no longer needed its protection. However, the mother of Bloodbath still wanted to experience the days of becoming a small spider and relying on Lin Yuan to adventure and train together. Lin Yuan naturally would not refuse the mother of Bloodbath's request. In any case, when the mother of Bloodbath advanced to Myth 3, Lin Yuan planned to bring it to the Divine Wood Federation to undergo world cleansing. He wanted to see if it could awaken the celestial Corona Jade spider bloodline and transform into a favored spirit. After the mother of Bloodbath left with the blood brew grapes, Lin Yuan returned to the underground space. On the underground space's walls, which were filled with floating silver threads, he cut off a small section of the floating silver thread that was left on the outside of the wall. Before leaving the Divine Wood Federation, Lin Yuan had asked Huquan if there were any more floating silver threads there. In the end, Huquan said that apart from making the Fey carriage, all the floating silver threads were buried in the underground space's walls. Upon hearing Huquan's answer, Lin Yuan naturally had the idea of making the Fey carriage. Huquan had invested a lot of effort into this Fey carriage. Therefore, he did not want Lin Yuan to destroy the half-built Fey carriage. He took out the floating silver threads from the body of the Fey carriage. Thus, Huquan told Lin Yuan that when building the underground space's walls, In order to prevent them from being attacked, the walls would be deformed. He had deliberately left an extra section of floating silver threads. The small amount of floating silver thread that was left outside of the underground space was more than enough. Lin Yuan did not need much floating silver threads. He just needed a little to make the gnome contracted. After cutting the floating silver threads, Lin Yuan's phone rang. He picked up the phone and found that the person calling him was Sun Ningxiang. Lin Yuan, who picked up the phone, thought that Sun Ningxiang was going to talk about the aurora pollen. He did not expect Sun Ningxiang to be sobbing on the other end of the phone. After he picked up the phone, Sun Ningxiang felt as though she was grasping at a life-saving straw. She sobbed even more violently. Lin Yuan might have experienced a lot of storms and waves. However, he really did not have any experience in dealing with a girl crying on the phone. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan recalled that when Sun Ningxiang had first established a cooperation with him, she had asked him for the legend muscle-growing camellia. She had said it was for her grandmother's healing. After the incident in the Immortal garden, there were only 3 direct descendants. For Sun Ningxiang to be so sad, either something had happened to her grandmother or her younger brother was in danger. However, Lin Yuan felt that it was more likely that something had happened to Sun Ningxiang's grandmother. Sun Ningxiang's younger brother was so young that he was not suitable to contract phase. As long as he was nurtured carefully, it was impossible for him to encounter any danger. Sure enough, Lin Yuan heard Sun Ningxiang's anxious and helpless voice. Lin Yuan, I beg you, can you help me contact the Moon Empress? My grandmother is dying. Sun Ningxiang's anxious and helpless voice was mixed with sobs, causing Lin Yuan's heart to tighten. Lin Yuan hurriedly said, Don't be anxious. Don't rush. Tell me slowly. Let me know how your grandmother is doing. End of this chapter. Chapter 12:19. Sun Ningxiang didn't know how to answer Lin Yuan's question. Sun Ningxiang didn't know how many internal injuries her grandmother had suffered in that conflict. Sun Ningxiang had asked her grandmother, but she didn't tell her. She was obviously afraid that she would worry. Just as Sun Ningxiang was having a meal with her grandmother, Sun Ningxiang saw her grandmother's eyes suddenly turn turbid, and she vomited 2 mouthfuls of rotten blood before fainting. Sun Ningxiang's heart was in a mess. Sun Ningxiang wasn't a creation master or a healing-type spirit qi professional. With her ability, she couldn't find out what was wrong with her grandmother. Sun Ningxiang didn't dare to look for the Sun family's creation masters and healing-type spirit qi professionals to check the situation. Firstly, after that incident, the Sun family's strongest creation master was only at the pinnacle of Class 3. Secondly, Sun Ningxiang couldn't let anyone in the Immortal garden know that her grandmother had fainted. Sun Ningxiang had always been the controller of the Immortal garden. However, her grandmother was the true stabilizing force of the Immortal garden. Without her Emperor-class strength to deter the Miao family, the Beast Creation Garden would have long made a move on the Sun family. Even the other people in the Immortal garden might have evil thoughts because of the lack of restrictions. Previously, with a huge investment of resources, Sun Ningxiang had looked for a Class 4 creation master and an Emperor-class healer to check on her grandmother's condition. In the end, the Class 4 creation master and the Emperor-class healer were helpless. After watching her grandmother fainting and losing her composure, Sun Ningxiang suddenly thought of Lin Yuan. Only the Moon Empress, who was behind Lin Yuan, could be her grandmother's savior. Sun Ningxiang and Lin Yuan had a bit of a personal relationship. However, Sun Ningxiang's words were absolutely abrupt. It could even be said to be overstepping her authority. However, Sun Ningxiang had no other choice. For the sake of her grandmother and the Immortal garden's future, Sun Ningxiang could only beg Lin Yuan and had to beg him. It could be said that Lin Yuan's answer was equivalent to deciding the outcome of the Immortal garden and her grandmother. When Lin Yuan saw that Sun Ningxiang couldn't explain the situation clearly, he changed the topic and asked, Your grandmother should have a contracted fei, right? Your grandmother should have a contracted fei, right? Is there any contracted fei outside when she is unconscious? If there is, you can ask that fei. That fei must be aware of your grandmother's current situation. Hearing this, Sun Ningxiang's whimpering suddenly became louder. Grandma's feis were originally summoned, But when Grandma fainted and vomited black rotten blood, they automatically returned to the spiritual spatial zone. Lin Yuan, what the hell is going on? Lin Yuan's brows furrowed tightly. After a spirit chi professional fainted, the phase wouldn't automatically return to the spiritual spatial zone. There are two reasons for this. Otherwise, it would be a spirit chi professional's initiative before they fainted. Either the spirit chi professional was on the verge of death, and the Fae was forced to return to the spiritual spatial zone due to the contract. Such a situation was called seclusion by creation masters. If Sun Ningxiang's grandmother really went into seclusion, it would be troublesome. Spirit chi professionals in seclusion usually couldn't live for more than 6 hours. In other words, he would let Sun Ningxiang bring her grandmother to the capital while he investigated the situation. If he couldn't resolve it by himself, then going to the Leaning Moon Mountain to seek help from his master, the Moon Empress, was no longer feasible. However, it wasn't realistic for him to inform the Moon Empress and ask her to make a trip. Just now, Lin Yuan had just called the Moon Empress. The call was picked up by Mystic Moon, who said that her master was in seclusion. Lin Yuan originally planned to visit the Moon Empress in the Radiant Moon Palace in the afternoon. In the end, Lin Yuan had no choice but to wait for the Moon Empress to come out of seclusion and contact him. At such a critical juncture, the truth might be hard to accept. However, Lin Yuan had no choice but to tell Sun Ningxiang his judgment. Have you heard of seclusion? Lin Yuan's words caused Sun Ningxiang to fall on the thick cashmere carpet. Even though Sun Ningxiang wasn't a creation master, she had heard of seclusion before. When Sun Ningxiang had called Lin Yuan, she had still held a trace of hope. Now that the word seclusion had spoken, it had shattered the remaining hope in Sun Ningxiang's heart. Just as Sun Ningxiang was in despair and had forgotten that she was calling Lin Yuan, Lin Yuan's clear and pleasant voice echoed from the other end. Fortunately, you called me when your grandmother fainted. My master, the Moon Empress, is in seclusion, but I have a Moon Dew Revival pill here. The Moon Dew Revival pill should be able to resolve your grandmother's situation. Your grandmother's situation is too serious, and the Moon Dew Revival pill can't resolve it. It should be enough for your grandmother to wake up and come to the royal capital for treatment. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Sun Ningxiang was stunned. How could Sun Ningxiang not have heard of the Moon Dew Revival pill, which was a sacred item that only the Moon Empress had? The Moon Dew Revival pill was said to be a divine medicine that could pull a person back from the Yellow Springs Road as long as they still had a breath left. It had a true resurrection effect. 10 years ago, the space-time elder, who had been in charge of Ostrich Logistics, had fallen into a near-death state during the collision with the Freedom Federation's experts. Back then, Ostrich Logistics Emperor-class healers had been helpless. As a result, the Moon Empress had given Ostrich Logistics a sacred medicine called the Moon Dew Revival Pill at the critical moment. It was rumored that the Moon Dew Revival Pill was concocted with the tears of the Weeping Moon Sacred Beast and close to 1,000 kinds of rare spiritual ingredients. It even used the Silver Stamen Gold Luster Cash's tree sap as a medicinal catalyst. It was this Moon Dew Revival Pill that had brought the space-time elder back from the dead and saved the Radiance Federation from the possibility of death. This Moon Dew Revival Pill had also facilitated the close relationship between the Radiance Moon Palace and Ostrich Logistics for over a decade. Since then, it was unknown how many top factions had tried to obtain the Moon Dew Revival Pill from the Moon Empress. There were only a few factions that could obtain the Moon Dew Revival Pill from the Moon Empress. Even when the Iron Prison Lord had asked for the Moon Dew Revival Pill from the Moon Empress, he had been rejected and chased out of the Radiance Moon Palace by the Moon Empress. Because of this matter, the Moon Dew Revival Pill had another title, something that even the Iron Prison Lord wasn't fit to use. After Sun Ningxiang found out that her grandmother was in seclusion, she felt as though her soul had been sucked out. Blossoming Flower City was next to Redbud City and was extremely far from the royal capital. Even if Lin Yuan had helped her contact the Moon Empress and used her connections, there would not be enough time for her to bring her grandmother to the royal capital. However, Sun Ningxiang did not expect Lin Yuan to have the Moon Dew Revival Pill. Furthermore, Lin Yuan was willing to use a sacred item like the Moon Dew Revival Pill to save her grandmother. 166 Reading Network. Chapter 12:20. During Lin Yuan's promise to deliver the Moon Dew Revival Pills, he didn't say anything else. This meant that Lin Yuan wasn't helping her because he wanted to obtain anything from her. Furthermore, as the Moon Empress disciple, Lin Yuan didn't have anything worthy of his attention. A warm current flowed from the bottom of Sun Ningxiang's heart into her eyes, turning her eyes into a tap. While tears were gushing out of her eyes, Sun Ningxiang was filled with gratitude, cherishing, rejoicing, and fear. The more she wanted to express her gratitude to Lin Yuan, the more she couldn't open her mouth. At that moment, Sun Ningxiang heard Lin Yuan say, "I'll hang up first. I'll hang up first. I'll call you later." Spirit Qi professionals in seclusion can usually last 5 to 6 hours. But your grandmother has other internal injuries, and she might not be able to last 5 hours. I'll contact Ostrich Logistics now and ask them to speed up the delivery. I'll try to deliver the Moon Dew Revival Pills to you within 2 hours. Just as Lin Yuan finished speaking, Sun Ningxiang heard the busy tone on the other end of the phone. Lin Yuan's anxious tone warmed the tearful Sun Ningxiang's heart again. This warmth made Sun Ningxiang's tightly pursed lips subconsciously raise into a slight arc. Lin Yuan hung up the phone and immediately contacted his exclusive courier, Ning. After explaining the situation, Ning promised to rush to the entrance of Lin Yuan's mansion within 10 minutes. She would deliver the goods that Lin Yuan had prepared to Fragrance City to Sun Ningxiang within 1.5 hours. After contacting Ning, Lin Yuan quickly walked toward the mansion's entrance. In less than 3 minutes after Lin Yuan arrived at the manor's entrance, Ning rushed over. Ning was wearing Ostrich Logistics work clothes. When she saw Lin Yuan, she took off the hat on her head with a smile. She held the hat and waved at Lin Yuan. Ning's reddish-purple short hair fluttered under the afternoon sun, giving her a lively and handsome feeling. Even though Ning still looked like a newbie, he still had the appearance of a newbie. But during this half a year, Ning would occasionally leave the delivery order with Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan's delivery had never made a single mistake in Ning's hands. At that moment, Lin Yuan solemnly told Ning about the urgency of the goods. Upon hearing that, Ning took the express delivery from Lin Yuan's hand and took a look at the order number before snapping her fingers. A sparkling silver shell appeared in Ning's hand. Ning read the information on the order to the shell. The shell directly tore open a crack in the space in front of Ning. Ning waved at Lin Yuan again and stepped into the rift, vanishing in front of him. Previously, when Ning was delivering the parcels, she would leave Lin Yuan's line of sight before teleporting. This was also a rule of Ostrich Logistics. However, when Ning heard that the situation was urgent, she couldn't be bothered about Ostrich Logistics rules. This was the first time Lin Yuan saw Ostrich Logistics reliance that could reach the entire Radiance Federation within 3 hours. According to the information he received from his master, the Moon Empress, Lin Yuan knew that Ostrich Logistics' ability could not be imitated by other factions. This was because the spatial crystal shellfish used by all Ostrich Logistics couriers was considered a function of the Spacetime Elder's sacred source, the spatial mother shellfish. After completing the mailing of the Dew Revival Pills, Lin Yuan naturally called Sun Ningxiang again. After picking up the call, Lin Yuan said softly, "The Dew Revival Pills have been mailed. The Dew Revival Pills have been mailed out now. You should be able to receive the Dew Revival Pills within 1.5 hours. Don't worry." Upon hearing Sun Ningxiang's continuous sobbing on the other end of the phone, Lin Yuan comforted her. "Don't cry. Otherwise, when your grandmother wakes up and sees you crying, she will be worried about you." As soon as Lin Yuan finished comforting Sun Ningxiang, he found that she was crying even harder than before. The louder crying from the other end of the phone made Lin Yuan's hand numb. Lin Yuan reached out and scratched the back of his head. He was almost bald, but he couldn't think of how to comfort Sun Ningxiang. No matter how many times he tried, Lin Yuan would only say, "Don't worry." Sun Ningxiang was the lineal daughter of a top faction, the Dew Immortal Garden, and had long been the head of the Dew Immortal Garden. She naturally understood that emotions could not be easily revealed. For the past few years, Sun Ningxiang had been supporting the Du Immortal Garden alone, and the operation of the Du Immortal Garden had put her under tremendous pressure at all times. Only after meeting Lin Yuan did the Du Immortal Garden's situation improve. It was also the muscle-revitalizing camellia in Lin Yuan's hand that gave Sun Ningxiang hope to cure her grandmother. During the Nix conference, Sun Ningxiang had been targeted by Miao Zhua, and the people from the other factions had been watching as a joke. Just as Sun Ningxiang had gritted her teeth and didn't know how to deal with it, Lin Yuan had stood behind her. Now, Lin Yuan had selflessly given her a Du Revival pill, which was equivalent to saving her grandmother's life. It had also saved the entire Du Immortal Garden. Lin Yuan made Sun Ningxiang feel like she could rely on him. Therefore, Sun Ningxiang would cry unscrupulously to vent her emotions in front of Lin Yuan. At that moment, Sun Ningxiang, who was completely defenseless, completely opened her heart to Lin Yuan. Sun Ningxiang felt that thanks could no longer express anything for Lin Yuan's great help. If it were not for Lin Yuan's Du Revival pill, even if the other top factions found out that she had a personal relationship with Lin Yuan at the Nix conference after her grandmother's death, they would definitely not let go of the Du Immortal Garden, which had the scale of a top faction but no emperor-class experts. Sun Ningxiang looked at the unconscious grandmother beside her and secretly made a decision. Sun Ningxiang planned to wait for her grandmother to eat the Du Revival pill and wake up before directly suggesting to her that the Du Immortal Garden should attach itself to Sky City. It would become a branch faction under Sky City's command. Sun Ningxiang felt that this was the only way to be worthy of Lin Yuan's kindness to her and the Du Immortal Garden. As she listened to Lin Yuan's clumsy consolation on the other end of the phone, a very unfamiliar feeling appeared in Sun Ningxiang's heart. This unfamiliar feeling was like fireflies dancing in the sky in midsummer in August, romantic and colorful but full of twists and turns. The fireflies gathered and scattered like flowers in the mirror and the moon in the water, beautiful like a dream. Sun Ningxiang was like a fanatic holding a small fan to pounce on fireflies. The more she pounced, the more fireflies with a certain shadow engraved on them were pounced into her dream. Sun Ningxiang's thoughts were myriad, but Lin Yuan did not feel that there was anything wrong. Lin Yuan regarded Sun Ningxiang as a friend, and when a friend was in trouble, he naturally had to help. Not only Sun Ningxiang but Long Tao, Li Xian, Zhong Zhe, Gu Lang, and Gao Feng also looked for Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan would also help. 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1221. Lin Yuan only hoped that nothing unexpected would happen. Sun Ningxiang's grandmother would also recover immediately after eating the Moon Du Revival pill. Sun Ningxiang's emotions were unstable, and it was not appropriate for Lin Yuan to hang up the phone and leave Sun Ningxiang here. Lin Yuan decided to wait for An Ning to send the Moon Du Revival pill over. He would accompany Sun Ningxiang to check on her grandmother's condition after eating the Moon Du Revival pill. 1.5 hours passed quickly with Lin Yuan's clumsy consolation and Sun Ningxiang's sobbing. At this time, Sun Ningxiang, who was on the other end of the phone, had already received the express delivery from An Ning. Lin Yuan told Sun Ningxiang in detail. When I first received this Moon Du Revival pill, I heard from Uncle Mystic that it contains the Moon Cry's sacred beast's tears. Therefore, the Moon Du Revival pill cannot be consumed with water. At the same time, when the Moon Du Revival pill is stained with human energy, the Moon Cry sacred beast's tears will quickly turn into liquid. Therefore, when you take the Moon Du Revival pill out of the cold jade porcelain bottle, don't touch it directly with your hands. Sun Ning looked at the Moon Du Revival pill that had arrived in time and heard Lin Yuan's instructions. Even if Sun Ning decided not to thank Lin Yuan verbally, he would thank Lin Yuan with his actions. She still could not help but thank him. Sun Ningxiang's thank you was very heavy and dull. This thank you contained too much of Sun Ningxiang's emotions. Upon hearing Sun Ningxiang's thank you, Lin Yuan quickly said, "You're welcome. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Let's take a look at the Lunar Du Recovery pill." Soon, Sun Ningxiang followed Lin Yuan's instructions and fed the Moon Du Revival pill to her grandmother. When feeding the pill, Sun Ningxiang suddenly realized that her grandmother's body was already slightly stiff. The wounds on her body were also rapidly rotting, and black-red pus flowed out. If not for the fact that her grandmother's pulse was still slightly beating, Sun Ningxiang almost thought that her grandmother was already dead. It could be said that she was really on her deathbed. If Lin Yuan had not specially emphasized for the express delivery person to speed up, or if he had not hung up the phone and sent the Moon Dew Revival pill, her grandmother would not have been able to enjoy it. Even if the Moon Dew Revival pill was sent over, her grandmother would not be able to enjoy it. The moment she fed the Moon Dew Revival pill to her grandmother, Sun Ningxiang felt very apprehensive. The Lunar Dew Recovery Pill was a sacred medicine of the Radiant Moon Palace and had the effect of reviving the dead. But this matter concerned the life and death of her family. Sun Ningxiang's heart couldn't calm down no matter what. When the Lunar Dew Recovery Pill turned into liquid and entered her grandmother's body, Sun Ningxiang immediately held her breath. He carefully checked his grandmother's condition. At this moment, a beam of warm moonlight shot out from his grandmother's body. Under the moonlight, there were thousands of fragrances that were either elegant or fragrant. Under the effects of the Lunar Dew Rejuvenation Pill, his grandmother's dark complexion slowly turned for the better. After a while, his face regained its rosy color. Sun Ningxiang carefully untied her grandmother's old wound, which was wrapped in bandages. The old wounds that were still rotting under the bandages had already recovered. The rotten parts of the old wounds quickly melted into a putrid liquid, and new flesh grew out to quickly repair the wounds. In less than a minute, Sun Ningxiang watched helplessly as her grandmother's old wounds, which she had tried to treat for many years, healed. This scene made Sun Ningxiang extremely happy. But when the moonlight and the thousands of fragrances from her grandmother's body dissipated, Sun Ningxiang suddenly became nervous. Sun Ningxiang realized that her grandmother didn't wake up with the dissipation of the moonlight and fragrances. Upon hearing Sun Ningxiang's question, Lin Yuan smiled and said, "Your grandmother's soul should have been severely injured before, right? Based on your description, your grandmother's injuries should have recovered. Based on your description, your grandmother's injuries should have recovered. The Lunar Dew Recovery Pill has the effect of awakening the mind. Your grandmother will wake up soon." Just as Lin Yuan finished speaking, Sun Ningxiang saw her grandmother open her eyes. When Sun Ningxiang, who originally stopped crying, saw her grandmother wake up, her tears uncontrollably flowed down the corners of her eyes again. However, Sun Ningxiang was no longer sad. Her face was filled with a smile of joy. After knowing that Sun Ningxiang's grandmother had woken up, Lin Yuan consciously hung up the phone. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yuan let out a breath of relief. No matter what, Sun Ningxiang's grandmother was finally pulled back from the brink of death. At Fragrant City, in the Dew Immortal Garden's old residence. After Sun Ningxiang's nanny, Lu Chan, woke up, her face was full of shock and disbelief. As an emperor-class expert who counted the days to live, Lu Chan was very clear about her body's condition. The moment she spat out 2 mouthfuls of black blood, Lu Chan knew that she had been forcibly dragging on the end of her lifespan. Just as Lu Chan wanted to explain the situation to Sun Ningxiang, the injuries on her soul suddenly erupted. Lu Chan didn't have time to explain to Sun Ningxiang before she fainted. When she fainted, Lu Chan's heart was full of worry and self-blame. Lu Chan was really afraid that if she died, the Dew Immortal Garden would be consigned to eternal damnation. Sun Ningxiang would also be wantonly bullied by the other top factions. Lu Chan was very regretful that after obtaining the legend muscle-growing camellia, she insisted on using its rhizome to see if it could completely remove the rotting poison in her body. If it could completely remove the rotting poison, she would not only be able to endure for another 3 to 5 years. However, when she used the muscle-growing camellia's rhizome to remove the rotting poison in her body, the rotting poison actually escaped to her brain. The injury to his soul, which he had suppressed with great difficulty, was triggered again. Under those circumstances, if Lu Chan still insisted on using the muscle-revitalizing camellia rhizome to remove the poison, she would have died. The infection of the decaying poison would definitely cause the injuries to his soul to erupt. Choosing the lesser of 2 evils. In the end, Lu Chan had no choice but to give up on guiding the medicinal power of the muscle-rejuvenating camellia to remove the poison in her body. Instead, she wanted to remove the medicinal power of the muscle-rejuvenating camellia out of her body. The leaves and stems of the legendary grade muscle-revitalizing camellia were good medicine for removing poison. However, in order to take a gamble, Lu Chan used the rhizome of the muscle-revitalizing camellia, which was dozens of times more effective. The muscle-revitalizing camellia that had its stem destroyed naturally lost its life. Previously, Lu Chan had been relying on the leaves and stems of the muscle-revitalizing camellia to suppress the poison. Now that the life force camellia tea stem was no longer able to suppress the decay poison that had developed a certain degree of resistance was even more ferocious. After spitting out 2 mouthfuls of black blood, Lu Chan fainted. This was because when the poison invaded the heart and lungs, it caused them to contract violently. The contraction of the heart and lungs pumped a large amount of blood containing the poison into the brain. Only then did the injury to Lu Chan's soul completely trigger. At this moment, Lu Chan woke up and touched Sun Ningxiang's head. While wiping away the tears on Sun Ningxiang's face, she was dumbstruck as she sensed the changes in her body. Her current body could be said to be completely gone. Chapter 12:22. Lu Chan discovered that the corrosive poison and wounds in her body had been healed, and her originally weak life force had been strengthened again. Moreover, for some unknown reason, the few impurities in his body had been washed out. This cleansing effect made Lu Chan immediately think of the Radiant Moon Palace's silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. At its peak, the Dew Immortal Garden had the qualifications to request a few drops of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar from the Moon Empress. However, even if the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar could cleanse the impurities in his body, it definitely couldn't heal his injuries. Lu Chan lowered her head and looked at Sun Ningxiang, who was crying like a child in her arms. His eyes were filled with kindness and love. Lu Chan was very clear about how difficult it was for Sun Ningxiang all these years. At this moment, Lu Chan couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Her granddaughter had suffered too much these years. It could be said that the pressure of the Dew Immortal Garden was completely on Sun Ningxiang. Now, not only had his body recovered, but his body, which had been cleansed of impurities, was even better than before. His granddaughter would finally no longer be tied up in the affairs of the dew-congealing Immortal Garden. Instead, he could freely choose the life he wanted to live. Right now, what Lu Chan wanted to know the most was how she recovered. There was only Sun Ningxiang beside him when he fainted. For him to have such a change, it must be related to his granddaughter, Sun Ningxiang. Xianxiang, what happened after I fainted? Upon hearing Lu Chan's question, Sun Ningxiang suddenly recalled that she had been on the phone with Lin Yuan. Sun Ningxiang hurriedly took the cell phone in embarrassment and realized that Lin Yuan had already hung up. Sun Ningxiang thought. Fortunately, Lin Yuan hung up the call. Otherwise, wouldn't Lin Yuan have heard my crying just now? Sun Ningxiang, who had such thoughts, didn't realize that Lin Yuan had been listening to her crying for almost 1.5 hours. During this hour, he had spent a lot of his brain cells thinking about how to coax a crying woman. Looking at Lu Chan's probing expression, Sun Ningxiang said softly, "Grandma Lin Yuan saved you." After understanding the situation, Lin Yuan urged Ostrich Logistics to send over a lunar dew revival pill. Lu Chan's body suddenly trembled when she heard the words lunar dew recovery pill. There was only one thought in Lu Chan's mind. He had actually eaten the moon dew rejuvenation pill. No wonder he was able to recover and Chen Ku was gone. Compared to the secrets that Sun Ningxiang knew, Lu Chan undoubtedly knew a bit more secrets. Thus, Lu Chan understood the significance of the lunar dew recovery pill even better than Sun Ningxiang. When the dew-congealing Immortal Garden was at its peak, his old man had sacrificed all his face for it. Even with half of the Dew Immortal Garden's assets, he was not qualified to exchange for a lunar dew recovery pill from the Radiant Moon Palace. The value of a lunar dew revival pill was higher than the life of an emperor-level expert. It was because the moon dew recovery pill was also effective against undying beings. During this period of time, Lu Chan could not remember how many times Sun Ningxiang had mentioned Lin Yuan's name. Although Lu Chan's body was so weak that she couldn't see the wind or the sun and needed to stay indoors to recuperate. However, Lu Chan knew a lot about Hui Yao's situation and naturally knew about Lin Yuan's identity as the Moon Empress disciple. Sun Ningxiang had not told Lu Chan that Sky City's City Lord and Lin Yuan were the same person. Lu Chan was very grateful to Sky City's City Lord and Lin Yuan. The cooperation between Sky City and Du Immortal Garden had opened up the predicament of Du Immortal Garden's lack of creation masters. It had revitalized Du Immortal Garden's plant fey resources. It had allowed Du Immortal Garden to not lose its base and give up its monopoly on the market. Lin Yuan had stood behind Sun Ningxiang at the Great Night Assembly and revealed to the other factions that he was on good terms with Sun Ningxiang. After the Great Night Assembly, Du Immortal Garden would no longer dare to find trouble with them. Before the Great Night Assembly, Sun Ningxiang would always mention Sky City's City Lord when communicating with her. However, after returning from the Great Night Assembly, Sun Ningxiang would always talk about Lin Yuan instead. Even if Du Immortal Garden and Sky City had deepened their cooperation, Sun Ningxiang would still not mention Sky City's City Lord. It was as though the topic of Sky City's City Lord had been shifted to Lin Yuan. Moreover, the frequency of mentioning Lin Yuan became more and more frequent. This made Lu Chan, who was experienced, gradually realize that things were unusual. Looking at Sun Ningxiang's eyes when she mentioned Lin Yuan, Lu Chan's expression became complicated. Her granddaughter was definitely a heavenly prodigy in terms of faction development. Otherwise, she would not have been able to support Du Immortal Garden for so many years when Du Immortal Garden could not provide resources. Compared to faction management, her granddaughter's talent as a combat class spirit chi professional was much weaker. Mobile app, even with Du Immortal Garden's massive resources, she could only reach the Radiance 100 sequence 40th to 60th at most. However, Lin Yuan was the champion of the Great Night Assembly's civil and martial arena. The Great Night Assembly's martial arena and civil and martial arena were separated. This meant that the champion of the civil and martial arena couldn't be called the strongest youth creation master or the strongest youth creation master. However, the champion of the cultural relic arena could definitely be called a combat class spirit chi professional and creation master all-rounder. During the battle with Chef Supreme's disciple, Zhong Zhe, Lin Yuan's combat style was so special that he did not even summon his Fei. He even revealed an abnormally powerful sacred source life form that could change its form. If such a prodigy obtained the radiant light metal, he would definitely become the next Radiance envoy. Coupled with Lin Yuan's radiant moon palace background, Lu Chan's granddaughter was far inferior to Lin Yuan. This gap would only grow bigger as Lin Yuan grew. Lu Chan said to Sun Ningxiang, "Grandma's body is fine now. Grandma's body is better now. Grandma can handle the matters of the Du congealing Immortal Garden. Xianxia, go and participate in this year's Radiance 100 sequence. In the future, Du Immortal Garden's resources will all pour into you. Bring along the ancient jade that can enhance willpower perception that your grandfather left for your younger brother. Try to comprehend the second willpower rune as soon as possible." Upon hearing her grandmother's words, Sun Ningxiang's eyes widened. Sun Ningxiang might not have said it, but she knew that compared to her, grandma loved her younger brother more. That ancient jade that could enhance willpower perception could be said to be the Du Immortal Garden's heirloom. That piece of ancient jade that could enhance willpower perception could be said to be the Du Immortal Garden's heirloom. How could grandma let her carry such an item casually? That piece of ancient jade was originally left for my younger brother. Before Sun Ningxiang could finish speaking, Lu Chan already spoke in a gentle voice. Without you supporting the Du Immortal Garden, how could Hu Zi have the chance to use this ancient jade? 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1223. There are still 2 years left before the next Radiance Envoy and Radiance Light Knight Regiment selection. Xianxia, if you really have any expectations, you must work hard to rush into the Radiance Light Knight Regiment. Otherwise, you will only get further and further away from the expectations in your heart until you don't even have the qualifications to look up to them. Lu Chan did not directly expose Sun Ningxiang's maiden thoughts. Sun Ningxiang, who had just developed strange feelings, did not understand the meaning of her grandmother's words. However, in Sun Ningxiang's maiden dream, there was indeed a hazy expectation. However, compared to the expectation in her dream, Sun Ningxiang had a more important matter to tell Lu Chan. At that moment, Sun Ningxiang looked at Lu Chan with a firm gaze and said very seriously, "Grandma, I want Immortal Garden to merge with Sky City. Become a branch faction of Sky City." When Lu Chan heard Sun Ningxiang's words, she did not react at first. Then Lu Chan fell into deep thought. Lu Chan suddenly realized that it was Lin Yuan who had saved her with the Moon Dew Revival Elixir. However, Sun Ningxiang did not mention letting Immortal Garden seek shelter with Lin Yuan. Instead, she wanted Immortal Garden to merge with Sky City. Moreover, Lu Chan found that her granddaughter had a tendency to transfer her gratitude to Sky City's city lord to Lin Yuan. When these two discoveries overlapped, Lu Chan's heart skipped a beat. During Immortal Garden's most difficult time, she had the pride of being the head of a top faction. Even if Immortal Garden perished with time, she was absolutely unwilling to let Immortal Garden become another faction's branch. This was the reason why Lu Chan had rejected the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden's cooperation. However, if Lin Yuan was Sky City's city lord, the situation would be completely different. Not to mention that Lin Yuan and Sky City's city lord were indebted to Immortal Garden. Lin Yuan's identity and future, as well as Sky City's creation master resources. This would allow the congealing Immortal Garden to have a better future. It would also give Immortal Garden a chance to transcend the top factions. In addition, the determination in Sun Ningxiang's eyes and the feelings she had for Lin Yuan were also an important reason why Lu Chan was willing to compromise. Before compromising, Lu Chan asked Sun Ningxiang, "Xianxia, tell me the truth. Fragrance, tell me the truth. Is Lin Yuan and the Sky City Lord the same person?" Hearing Lu Chan's affirmative tone, Sun Ningxiang hesitated for a moment before nodding. Seeing Sun Ningxiang nod, Lu Chan lovingly stroked Sun Ningxiang's hair and said, "Grandma is old. From now on, the Immortal Garden's decisions will be up to you. Grandma strives to live a few more years and be your solid support for a few more years. At least I didn't let down a holy item like the Lunar Dew Rejuvenation Pill." Seeing the surprised expression on Sun Ningxiang's face, Lu Chan revealed a warm smile. A new life with a smile. It was already the spring equinox. The sun of the spring equinox seemed warm, but it was the most dazzling. At this time, the sun gradually climbed to the center of the sky. In the Radiance Royal Court, an old man sat on a seemingly ordinary recliner that was filled with the rhythm of life. Looking at the dazzling sun, he quietly pondered. Not only did the dazzling sunlight not make the old man avert his eyes, but it also seemed to draw something from them. The old man's black eyes were coated with a layer of gold. At that moment, a man with peach blossom eyes and smiling eyes walked in. Upon seeing the old man, the smiling man hurriedly said, "You called me over in such a hurry. You called me here in such a hurry. Is it because you're having that old problem again?" Upon hearing that, the old man shifted his gaze away from the sun. He looked at the smiling man in front of him and said, "This old man's body is very strong. This old man's body is very strong. I haven't had that old illness for 5 or 6 years." Cicada cry, "This old man sees that you have been keeping your disciple in the royal court recently. How does it feel to have a disciple?" Upon hearing that, Cicada cry could not help but rub his temples with a headache. Gao Feng is good at everything, but he is now wholeheartedly thinking about next year's tournament. He is so excited that he can't stop for a moment. Compared to improving my strength, I plan to cultivate Gao Feng's mind first. Upon hearing Cicada Cry's words, the old man was a little surprised. Cicada Cry seemed to be the most gentle person with a smiling face. However, in reality, Cicada Cry was an extremely rational and indifferent person. He did not expect Cicada Cry to still be so attentive to his disciple after such a long time. The old man originally did not think that Cicada Cry would accept a disciple and was afraid that Cicada Cry would not be able to fulfill his responsibility as a master. But now, it seemed like he was worrying too much. Perhaps compared to Cicada Cry bringing Gao Feng to cultivate his mind, Gao Feng's appearance was also to train Cicada Cry's heart. The old man flipped his hand, and a blazing yellow wood box appeared in his hand. Seeing that the old man took out the item, Cicada Cry quickly reached out to receive it. After receiving the blazing yellow wood box, Cicada Cry heard the old man say, "The item inside is a drop of geocentric jade milk. Send this drop of geocentric jade milk to the Moon Empress. This geocentric jade milk should be able to increase the Moon Empress lifespan by another year." Speaking up to this point, the old man's face revealed an obvious pain. The battle 10 years ago caused the 3 continents outside of the Radiance Federation to sink to the bottom of the sea forever. In that battle, 4 Freedom Federation immortals perished, but the Moon Empress attack also depleted most of her lifespan. According to the Moon Empress personality, how could she only enter seclusion for 10 years after that storm? Ever since the Moon Empress accepted a disciple, she had been paving the way for him. From this point alone, it could be seen that the Moon Empress didn't have much lifespan left. Otherwise, the Moon Empress wouldn't have chosen to pave the way, which she originally disdained the most. Only by watching her own disciple use his abilities to fight for a place in the world would it be in line with the Moon Empress pride. At the Moon Empress level, every breakthrough would require a huge risk. Every advancement was a gamble with the heavens. To experts, lifespan had always been the most precious thing in the world. Constantly increasing one's strength could only extend one's lifespan, but it still couldn't become eternal in the world. Therefore, if people at this level wanted to increase their strength, they first had to weigh the price of failure. Could they bear it? However, the Moon Empress had been breaking through frequently in recent years. This was the Moon Empress using her own method to make a final struggle with her lifespan. When the old man's face sank into a painful expression, Cicada Cry had already left the Imperial Court with the box. Cicada Cry had also personally experienced that storm. When 2 people who experienced that storm reminisced together, it would only make each other more sad. Cicada Cry, who had stepped out of the Imperial Court and was heading to the Radiant Moon Palace, softly said, "I have an old friend who carried a sword and was unwilling to return even after slaying the spring. I hope that you, who are as proud as the cold moon, still have 15 years to complete what you want to do." Lin Yuan, who was teasing the orange longevity rat in the manor, was completely unaware of all this. 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1224. Lin Yuan had nothing urgent to do in the Divine Wood Federation. His master, the Moon Empress, had yet to come out of seclusion. He also needed to deal with the blood oath battle between the Blissful Sea clan and the Miao family. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to deal with all the matters in the Radiance Federation first before heading to the Divine Wood Federation to train in peace. Looking at the longevity rat jumping around in his hand, Xiao Luo's eyes lit up. He felt that this longevity rat would definitely become good friends with the Moon Empress Little White Rabbit. Of course, the premise was that the longevity rat did not snatch the rabbit's carrot. Otherwise, the rabbit would probably hide the carrot behind its tail again. Lin Yuan had been busy opening up the Divine Wood Federation situation in the past few days and had not had a good rest. He could not help but feel a little sleepy while smelling the agarwood. Lin Yuan summoned Genius and arranged for Genius to call him at 1 p.m. He nestled on the water rhinoceros leather sofa and took a nap. While he was taking a nap, 4 figures in different parts of the main world also fell asleep with different moods. Download app to read books forever. Bei Su had been very fulfilling these few days, and he was also very happy. After sweeping a cursed stoneworm's work site, Bei Su finally received subordinates. With subordinates, Bei Su officially established his own faction. It was very difficult for ordinary people to survive in a place like the underground world. Therefore, Bei Su was very strict in selecting subordinates. Coincidentally, someone in this cursed stoneworm nest had awakened a willpower rune. However, the awakened willpower rune was useless in the arduous work of quarrying all day long. These people, who had been engraved with the stoneworm curse mark, did not dare to tell others about their uniqueness. They were afraid that others would treat them as aliens or that the guards would treat them as threats and kill them. After obtaining the consent of these two subordinates, Bei Su used the sharp Shadow Dark Bat's exclusive skill, Bat Teeth Bloodline, on them. He turned these two subordinates into blood slaves. Next, Bei Su only needed to sweep more underground dimensional rifts and find suitable source-type items for his two subordinates. This way, Bei Su's faction's comprehensive strength would be greatly improved. From now on, Bei Su did not need to do everything himself. This was a great progress for Bei Su's development. Wang Lin was riding the island whale in the boundless sea, following the team from the Azure Federation to the Radiance Federation. Wang Lin had a leisurely life on the island whale's back. Other than increasing his strength, he was also looking forward to the next Celestial Body Conference. Unlike Wang Lin's leisurely life, the one who changed the most was definitely Trey. Due to Lin Yuan, Trey had changed from a youth from a small tribe to a young man in these 7 days. He had become a Class 1 creation master recognized by the Hammer Kingdom. Because of this, his tribe, the Iron Hoof tribe, had become a 1-star tribe. Trey had become a Class 1 creation master at such a young age, and it had caused quite a commotion in the Hammer Monarch court. In order to show how much they valued Tally, the Hammer Kingdom sent a powerful royal court warrior to be responsible for his safety. When the Class 2 tribe, the Black Copper tribe, found out that Trey had become a Class 1 creation master and was valued by the Imperial Court, the Black Copper tribe was shocked. The Black Copper tribe changed their attitude and took the initiative to befriend Trey. He also promised that he was willing to work with the Iron Hoof tribe to develop high-grade energy ores and accompanying ores of gold-grade spirit materials, Frost Silver, just to form an alliance with the Iron Hoof tribe. The development of these events deeply shocked Trey. This made Trey even more aware of how much he had benefited from the Celestial Council. Because of this, Trey did not lose his direction at a young age. Trey firmly convinced his grandfather, grandmother, father, mother, and brother. He was prepared to move the Iron Hoof tribe toward the Divine Wood Federation's border according to Lin Yuan's request. Trey's choice was equivalent to giving up the high-grade energy ores and accompanying ores of gold-grade spirit materials, Frost Silver. The Iron Hoof tribe, which had never seen such wealth, was naturally unwilling to give it up. In the end, Trey moved to teach once every 7 days. His master, who had taught him to become a Class 1 creation master, finally convinced his family. A few days ago, the Iron Hoof tribe had embarked on a journey toward the Iron Hoof Federation's border. Zoe Iren was currently hunched in an alley in the Divine Wood Federation's Oak City. As a refugee, Zoe Iren had to be careful even when breathing in a place like the Divine Wood Federation, where life was worthless. During the last Celestial Council, Lin Yuan had treated Zoe Iren's injuries. However, Zoe Iren now had a large number of new injuries. In order to survive, Zoe Iren could not care less about her identity as a gloom envoy and had to rummage through the garbage every day. The setback in reality made Zoe Iren even more determined to survive. The man's voice in the stars kept echoing in Zoe Iren's mind. Only by surviving will there be hope. Even if the price of this hope was being controlled and losing her freedom. Of course, Zoe Iren had not been completely fruitless during these few days of rummaging through the garbage for a living. Zoe Iren had found a mobile phone with a broken screen that could make blind calls. At the last Celestial Council, Zoe Iren still remembered that the body intertwined with countless laws and willpower had given instructions to the body formed by willpower beside her. It was to migrate from the Iron Hoof Federation to the edge of the Divine Wood Federation. This meant that the figure was likely to be at the edge of the Divine Wood Federation. After nearly a month of investigation, Zoe Iren knew that Oak City, where she was the closest big city to the Iron Hoof Federation. Therefore, Zoe Iren cherished the mobile phone she had picked up. Zoe Iren wanted to try and see if she could ask for the figure's mobile phone number at the Celestial Council. Then, she would get in touch with the figure through this mobile phone that could only make blind calls. Otherwise, he would not be so lucky when his soul was damaged and the sacred source life form was on the brink of death. He was always able to survive after being beaten up. Zhou Yiren's skinny body was curled up in the alley like an insecure kitten. In this kind of life, Zhou's senses were very light. Zhou Yiren starved for 2 days so that she wouldn't wake up in the middle of a deep sleep. He exchanged the food he picked up from a kind-looking vagrant for a glass of strong alcohol that even vagrants despised. Zhou Yiren, who had never drunk alcohol, actually started snoring in her sleep after downing a glass of strong alcohol. Zhou Yiren probably wouldn't wake up for at least half a day. Genius was a housekeeping beast, so it was naturally familiar with the wake-up service. Once it was 1 o'clock, Genius used its 8 long tails to tickle Lin Yuan's neck. Lin Yuan was already very ticklish, and with Genius's waving tail he felt extremely itchy. Lin Yuan quickly sobered up with laughter. Chapter 12:25. After Lin Yuan woke up, he hugged Genius, which was tickling him, and gave it a fierce stroke. It lowered its head and meowed comfortably after being stroked by Genius. Lin Yuan then carried Genius to the water rhinoceros leather sofa and asked it, "Smart, are you planning to stay in the manor or return to the Spirit Lock spatial zone?" When Genius heard Lin Yuan's question, it quickly answered. "Lin Yuan, Genius wants to return to the Spirit Lock spatial zone and use the spirit fluid to split the soldier ration radish. Then take the army's rations radishes that have been split and plant them in the swamp world." As it spoke, Genius wagged its tail, its eyes sparkling. Upon seeing Genius' cheerful expression, Lin Yuan was rather curious. Hence, he patted Genius's head and asked, "Smart, what are you thinking about? Why are you so happy?" Genius let out a meow and said, "Lin Yuan, there will be 15 soldier grain radishes after splitting. The swamp world's environment is very suitable for the growth of the soldier radishes. Recently, the wind-speed rapid antelope has not had any time to rest because of the crazy growth of the soldier radishes. Moreover, I don't think there's any point in keeping so many army rations radish branches. Why don't we bury all the branches of the army grain radish in the swamp world? The branches of the army grain radish would quickly turn into nutrient-rich humus in the presence of the fungi in the swamp world. There is an academic report about a Class 4 Creation Master leading a few Pinnacle Class 3 Creation Masters to conduct an experiment on the soil mixed with various kinds of swamp soil. It has been discovered that there is a high possibility that a variety of swamp soils will fuse with an excess supply of humus, combining their advantages to form a compound type of swamp soil. With the speed at which the 15 army grain radishes are growing branches, I want to see if I can turn the entire swamp world's territory into a compound swamp soil." Upon hearing Genius' words, Lin Yuan couldn't help but raise his brows. Genius was now acting like a little scientist. Its mind was filled with ideas on how to help it develop its territory. It was indeed useless for Lin Yuan to store a large number of the soldier ravenous vine's branches. Although the branches of the army grain radish were very nutritious, and a human only needed to eat 1 leaf to fill their stomachs. However, the army grain radish's strength did not lie in its nutritional value, but in its rapid growth rate. In terms of nutrient content, many production-type phase fruits, stems, and leaves were much more nutritious than the soldier grain radish. However, these production-type phase definitely did not have the ability to grow 10,000 meters per day like the soldier's grain radish. When the army grain radish's rank increased, each army grain radish's existence was equivalent to a powerful food production base. With a production base like the military radish, which had a shocking output, Lin Yuan did not need to put an effort to store food. The army grain radish branches and leaves that he had previously collected in the swamp world, if he could really evolve the entire land of his territory into compound swamp soil. As more and more swamp soil was buried in his territory, the compound swamp soil formed in his territory would become stronger and stronger. At that time, not only would Endless Summer's sacred source life form, Arakoa orchid sprout, grow faster, but it would also grow faster. At the same time, his territory in the swamp world would also become a paradise for plant phase. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw a person walk in from the mansion's entrance. This person's face was filled with joy. It was Ji Feng. Before Lin Yuan could say anything, Ji Feng had already spoken to him first. Young master, my Fey Advance Order Water Lotus has given me instructions based on the exclusive skill that it obtained when it became a myth breed. Upon hearing Jifeng's words, Lin Yuan immediately became interested. He had seen with his own eyes how magical Jifeng's Karma Gladiolus and Command Water Lotus were. Among them, Lin Yuan valued Jifeng's Foretelling Water Lotus the most. It had the ability to foretell misfortune to the people he came into contact with every once in a while. The smile on Jifeng's face was so bright that the water lily's prediction was self-evident. Jifeng, tell me, what good news did you foresee? Jifeng said hurriedly. Young master, this good thing is a bit special because this good thing isn't just for one person. When I first came to the manor, the foreordaining water lily had been making frequent predictions. In the beginning, I ordered the water lily to predict that an auspicious sign would appear on Wenyu. Then it was Lu Jie, listen, the mother of bloodbath, endless summer, Zhou Luo, Hu Quan, and today it's you. The frequent occurrence of auspicious signs made me feel that things were a little strange, so I used the foreordaining water lily's testimony. Through repeated probing, I can confirm that everyone's auspicious signs are related to each other. To be able to make everyone's auspicious signs be related, I think the most likely reason is that this auspicious sign is aimed at the entire manor. Everyone will return to the manor to live, so it's tainted with the auspicious signs. With this idea in mind, I used my testimony to test it again. After saying this idea, I didn't receive a backlash from the Heaven Secrets, which means that my idea is right. Then I continued to use my testimony to test the time. I can confirm that this auspicious sign for everyone in the manor will arrive within 2 days. Ap Jifeng's words were clearly a happy event, but Lin Yuan's brows twitched wildly. Lin Yuan remembered that when he had checked the foreordaining water lily's true data, he would receive a backlash from the Heaven Secrets when the prediction failed and his soul would be severely injured. Jifeng knew this, but he still repeatedly tested it. It was said that curiosity killed the cat. Could Jifeng be a cat? Jifeng's behavior was equivalent to grabbing a wire and pretending to be a willow, the wisp youth. Lin Yuan felt that no matter what, he should remind Jifeng for his safety. Jifeng, it's better to use your testimony less. It's not a good feeling to have your soul injured. Jifeng chuckled when he heard Lin Yuan's words. Even if the prediction of bad luck fails, the backlash from the Heaven Secrets won't cause serious injuries to the soul. Young master, you forgot that my foreordaining water lily can heal soul injuries. I just need to use the foreordaining water lily to heal the damaged soul. Jifeng had suffered 10 years of soul torture, and the pain of the soul was already traumatized. Under normal circumstances, Jifeng naturally would not put himself in danger to explore an illusory auspicious sign. Recently, Endless Summer had brought Listen and Zhou Luo to Indigo Azure City to gather the Zheng family's resources. Jifeng replaced Endless Summer to oversee the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. After revealing its claws in Sky City, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had not encountered any trouble. Jifeng had been exceptionally idle in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce for the past few days. However, since Jifeng had followed Lin Yuan and received his life-saving grace, Jifeng naturally was not willing to be a useless person. Therefore, Jifeng wanted to do as much as he could. Even if this matter might hurt his soul, Jifeng did not hesitate. 166 Reading Network. Chapter 1226. This auspicious omen appeared on Lin Yuan and everyone in the Return from Faraway Mansion. 10 years ago, Jifeng, who had watched his family die tragically in front of him, was already alone when he met Lin Yuan. After interacting with the people of the Return from Faraway Manor, Jifeng subconsciously treated the Return from Faraway Manor as his own home. Upon hearing Jifeng's words, Lin Yuan took a deep look at Jifeng and did not say anything else. Jifeng's simple words had conveyed too much information to Lin Yuan. Since Jifeng was willing to express his affection despite the damage to his soul, Lin Yuan naturally would not trample on this affection. Lin Yuan firmly remembered this affection in his heart. Moreover, Ji Feng had been the young family head of the Whale Ocean Trade's Ocean Sky lineage, so he would certainly have a sense of propriety when doing things. According to Ji Feng, there would be an auspicious omen for the entire mansion in these 2 days. Lin Yuan intended to be on full alert from now on. On one hand, it was to welcome the auspicious omen. On the other hand, it was to not let this auspicious omen, which should have appeared in the mansion, slip away. After reporting the situation to Lin Yuan, Ji Feng immediately returned to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. As the strongest expert in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, Ji Feng could not leave the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce for too long. After putting Genius into the Spirit Lock spatial zone and letting it distribute the soldiers' rations, Lin Yuan went to the 3rd floor and knocked on Wen Yu's door. Wen Yu's sleep was very light, and Lin Yuan only knocked twice before she woke up from her deep sleep. After opening the door, Lin Yuan found Wen Yu with a head of fluffy and messy ahogue. However, her eyes were abnormally awake at this moment. When she saw Lin Yuan, she opened the door and said to him, "Young master, come in and wait for me for a while." "Come in and wait for me for a while, young master. I'll go wash my face and tidy up before carrying out the ritual and convening the Celestial Council." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan naturally followed Wen Yu into the room. The construction of the Return from Faraway Mansion had been completed for a long time. Wen Yu usually went to Lin Yuan's room to give him clothes and discuss the development of Sky City with him. However, unlike Wen Yu, who often went to Lin Yuan's room, Lin Yuan had never been to Wen Yu's room. Or rather, this was the first time Lin Yuan had been to a girl's bedroom other than Chu Si's. After Lin Yuan sat on the chair in Wen Yu's room, Wen Yu went into the bathroom to take care of herself. He listened to the sound of flowing water while sizing up the furnishings in her room. Lin Yuan realized that the layout of her room was completely different from her clothing design style. Wen Yu's spirit chi clothing was often very elegant and luxurious. In terms of tailoring, they had always used the most exquisite palace style. Such a design style made Lin Yuan's daily spirit chi clothes look simple, but the embroidery patterns and accessories all revealed a sense of nobility. However, Wen Yu's room was minimalist. Apart from a bed, 2 chairs, and a large table, there was basically no other furnishings. In Lin Yuan's room, there were even some sculptures made of completely jade-like wood by Hu Quan. From the moment he entered the room, Lin Yuan could faintly smell a faint fragrance. This fragrance was different from the smell of flowers and plants. It had a distinct characteristic, and it smelled very gentle. If not for the fact that the impurities in his body had been completely cleansed and his sense of smell had reached the limits of humans, he would not have been able to smell it. This faint fragrance was easily overlooked by Lin Yuan. Just as Lin Yuan finished sizing up the room and was about to trace the source of this fragrance, Wen Yu had already walked out of the bathroom. Wen Yu walked out of the bathroom with a frown on her face. She was obviously thinking about a thorny problem. Wen Yu took 2 steps forward and walked to Lin Yuan's side. "Young master, do you have any plans for the Celestial Body Conference?" Based on her question, Lin Yuan knew that she was thinking about recruiting Su Yiren. Lin Yuan didn't find this strange. Wen Yu had investigated Su Yiren's background during the Celestial Body Conference, so she naturally knew Su Yiren's value. However, he felt that she was a little too worried. Compared to thinking about how to recruit Su Yiren, after 7 days of settling down, Zhou Yiren, who had experienced the hardships of the world, was now racking her brains to figure out how to join the Celestial Body Council. After pondering for a moment, Lin Yuan expressed his opinion on recruiting Su Yiren. "Not only do we not need to make any plans for the Sui Yiren, but we also don't need to plan ahead. If Zoel wants to join the Celestial Council, we need to set 3 rules for her. Su Yiren is now in the Divine Wood Federation. I'll meet her sooner or later when I'm training there. After meeting up with Su Yiren, healing her soul injuries and the sacred source life form that's on the verge of death is a must. Otherwise, Su Yiren, who can't even summon a fae, is useless to us. It's just that Su Yiren's mind is now full of revenge. Through this Celestial Body Council, we need to change her mind. The Celestial Council needs companions who cooperate with each other and develop together, not a determined avenger." Upon hearing that, Wen-yu immediately understood what Lin Yuan meant and knew his plan for Su Yiren. It seemed that Lin Yuan was determined to win Su Yiren. At the same time, Lin Yuan's words also let Wen-yu walk out of the misunderstanding she had fallen into. After knowing Su Yiren's identity as a dark envoy, Wen-yu valued Su Yiren very much. In fact, rather than saying that Wen-yu valued Su Yiren's ability, it was better to say that she valued Su Yiren's identity more. Now, Lin Yuan's words made Wen-yu realize that Su Yiren's ability as a dark envoy was far more important than her identity as a dark envoy. What Lin Yuan valued was Su Yiren's ability. This was also why Lin Yuan wanted to set 3 rules for Su Yiren. From this point, Wen-yu could see that Lin Yuan's vision was far superior to hers. Wen-yu enjoyed the feeling of constantly improving by Lin Yuan's side. Wen-yu and Lin Yuan went to the training room and used the ritual to activate the sacred source life form, the Celestial Council. A grand event in the stars finally began again. When Lin Yuan and Wen-yu sat on the Leo and Libra thrones again, Lin Yuan found that 4 figures had appeared neatly in the northern and southern celestial seats. Among them, Lin sat on the Andromeda throne, Bei-su sat on the Immortal throne, Tally sat on the Leo throne, and Su Yiren stood in front of the Corona Australis throne. During the previous Celestial Council, Tally had signed a contract with the Leo throne without hesitation. He had become an official member of the Celestial Council. However, because of hesitation and distrust of the Celestial Council, Su Yiren did not sign a contract with the Corona Australis throne. When Su Yiren saw Lin Yuan and Wen-yu, she immediately prepared to sign a contract with the Corona Australis throne like Tally had done with the Leo throne. End of this chapter. Chapter 12:27. But just as Su Yiren extended her hand towards the Corona Australis throne, she heard the lady sitting on the Libra throne speak calmly. Wait, if you want to join the Celestial Council, you have to prove your worth first. Wen-yu's words stunned Su Yiren. In Zol's memories, Trey was not required to prove his worth when he signed the contract with the Leo minor. This made Su Yiren feel like she was being treated differently. Although Zhou Yiren's life in the Divine Wood Federation was worse than a dog's, she was still in the form of a soul consciousness in a dream. Here, Su Yiren still had the pride of a dark envoy. If she had been treated this differently the last time, Zoel would have left the Celestial Council without hesitation. However, ever since the Celestial Assembly had ended, he had used the Astral Throne's function to transfer the Jasmine Lily's vitality to Su Yiren and heal her injuries. This made Zoel realize just how powerful the Celestial Council was. This also made Zhou Yiren understand that even if she was in the Divine Wood Federation, the Celestial Council would still help her. In addition, he had said that as long as she was alive, there would be hope. This made Su Yiren train herself for 7 days. As a result, Su Yiren could not wait to sign a contract with the Corona Australis throne behind her the moment she entered the Celestial Council. Suol, who had long decided to join the Celestial Council, was naturally unwilling to give up this opportunity after being treated unfairly. Su Yiren asked, looking straight at Wen-yu, "How do I prove my worth?" While Su Yiren and Wen-yu were conversing, he once again checked Su Yiren's memories. He now knew how Su Yiren had survived the past 7 days. When Lin Yuan saw that Su Yiren was about to sign a contract with Corona South, he had been prepared to stop her. In the end, Wen-yu got in front of him and stopped Su Yiren. Since Wen-yu had taken the lead, he planned to hand Su Yiren over to her. He wanted to see what Wen-yu would say and do. Seeing that Su Yiren was asking her a question, Wen-yu answered directly. Proving a person's worth is not based on what they have, but what they can do. Can you cooperate with the Celestial Council without hiding anything? Su Yiren fell silent. After a brief silence, Su Yiren did not directly answer Wen-yu. Instead, he changed the topic and pointed at Tally, Lin, and Bei-su. Can they guarantee that they won't cooperate with the Celestial Council? How would others know what a person is thinking? This kind of promise is like child's play to me. Now I'll answer you yes. Do you believe me? Su Yiren had just finished her sentence when Lin, who was not far away, interrupted her coldly. Don't forget why you joined the Celestial Council. What kind of oath did you make before entering the Celestial Council? Tianqing is already giving you face by using the word cooperation. After the Celestial Council achieves your wish, you should do everything you can for the Celestial Council. When Wang Lin rebuked Zhou Yiren, Bei Su and Tally also frowned at her. Zhou Yiren could clearly feel Wang Lin, Tally, and Bei Su's disgust for her. Wang Lin's words brought Zhou Yiren to her senses. This was because Zoel, who had once again entered the Celestial Council, was thinking about how to survive and achieve her own goals. Indeed, she had forgotten how she entered the Celestial Council last time. At that moment, Wang Lin heard the woman sitting on the throne of Libra speak in a calm tone. Right now, you're thinking about how to get more rewards from the Celestial Council. When your wings grow, you want to return to the Dark Continent and use your identity as a Dark Envoy to get a response from the members of the 7 Dark States in the central plains of the Dark Continent. Am I right? When Yu's words made Zhou Yiren's eyes widen. Because when Yu was talking about Zhou Yiren's current thoughts. It could be said that when Yu had completely seen through Zhou Yiren's thoughts. Previously, Zhou Yiren had been wondering how the two people sitting on the throne knew so much about her. Now, it seemed that there was something strange about this gathering. Or, the woman sitting on the throne of Libra had the ability to see through her heart. While Zhou Yiren was thinking, when Yu continued, I've always thought that people who can become Dark Envoys are not people who can't see the situation clearly. If you want to take revenge, the most basic thing is to have the strength to defeat 7th Page War. If you don't have the strength of 7th Page War, you'll only get the people close to you killed if you act rashly. You should know this very well. Now, I'll give you one last chance. Let me know what you can do for the Celestial Council. Otherwise, you can continue to pick up the trash in the Divine Wood Federation as a scavenger to eat and barely survive. Oak City is a huge city in the Divine Wood Federation with a 4-star family, many 3-star families, and dozens of 2-star families. In a place like this where nobles are everywhere, the death of a refugee won't cause any ripples. At that time, no one will know that the dignified Dark Envoy was buried in a corner of an alley in the Divine Wood Federation's Oak City like an ant. You know that I'm not saying this to scare you, and don't think that the contract with the Celestial Council is that simple. Signing a contract with the Celestial Council means that you're destined to fulfill the promise you made when you entered the Celestial Council. Otherwise, you'll pay far more than you get. When Yu's every word was like a hammer hammering down on Zhou Yiren's heart. Every word from Wen Yu was about the suffering that Zhou Yiren was currently experiencing. Wen Yu's omniscience, as if she could see through people's hearts, made Zhou Yiren feel a sense of fear. In the end, Zhou Yiren gritted her teeth and said, I can do many things. I can do a lot of things. Even if you give me a federation, I can help you run it in an orderly manner. As for the other things you want me to do, at the very least, you have to recover from my injuries. In addition, my sacred source life form is a little special. My sacred source life form's abilities are bound to each of my phase. If I don't recover from my near-death state, my sacred source life form will not be able to summon them. Even if I recover from my soul injuries, I won't be able to summon them. Zhou Yiren's words were arrogant, but when you knew that Zhou Yiren was not lying. There were a total of 7 federations in the Dark Continent. One of the tests for Zhou Yiren to become a Dark Envoy was to rule a federation for a year. From there, she would prove her ability in strategy and the overall situation. End of this chapter. Chapter 12:28. Lin Yuan took over from Wen Yu's words and said to Zhou Yiren, if you choose to become a member of the Celestial Council, the Celestial Council will naturally not let you down. Your soul injury can be easily healed. You don't have to worry about that. What we should be discussing now is how to cure your sacred source life form. Zhou Yiren's eyes lit up. From Lin Yuan's words, Zhou Yiren knew that the Celestial Council had the ability to heal her soul. He also wanted to heal his sacred source life form, which was in a desperate state. In truth, Zhou Yiren was not very clear about the absolute love poppy's injuries. After all, seventh page war had crushed the flowers and stems of the absolute love poppy into flower mud. Then, the absolute love poppy fell into a deep slumber in the depths of Zol's soul. If he wanted to communicate with the sacred source life form and investigate its condition, he would need to use his soul power. With her soul injured, Zhou Yiren had no way of checking on the absolute love poppy's condition. But Su Yiren was certain that absolute love poppy was still alive. In fact, under normal circumstances, as long as a plant's roots were still there, it would grow rapidly. It should be able to absorb nutrients to recover. It was just that the current absolute love poppy was too weak. In a state of near death, the absolute love poppy did not dare to casually absorb the nutrients. This was because once the absolute love opium poppy started to absorb the nutrients, the stump would come out of its dormant state. After coming out of its dormant state, the absolute love poppy would rapidly lose its life force from the broken stem. Once the life force generated from the absorbed nutrients did not reach the level of dissipation, the absolute love poppy would completely die. Subconsciously, Zhou Yiren did not want her hopeless love poppy, who was on the brink of death, to take any risks. So, Su Yiren demanded an exorbitant price. It's very difficult to cure my absolute love poppy. I can only think of two ways. The first is to plant my absolute love poppy on top of the top-grade living life soil. The second is to burn my absolute love poppy with life-extinguishing flames. Other methods might have the effect of recovery, but only these two methods are the safest. Otherwise, if I don't do it properly, my absolute love poppy might very well die. I don't want absolute love poppy to take the risk. When he heard Su Yiren mention the top-notch swamp soil, eternal life soil, he frowned. There were only so many Class 5 swamp dimensional rifts in the Radiance continent. The number of Class 5 swamp dimensional rifts that produced top-notch swamp soil was even more so. The Moon Empress had mentioned to him that there was a top-notch swamp soil master in the Radiance Federation. There was no everlasting soil in it at all. In other words, it was impossible to find the top-notch marsh soil eternal life soil in the Radiance Federation. He now had a territory in the swamp world, and it was very convenient for him to find live soil. However, in the vast swamp world, trying to find a specific kind of swamp soil was like looking for a needle in a haystack. There were often powerful dimensional creatures guarding the vicinity of the top-grade swamp. Given Lin Yuan's current strength, he might not be able to provoke the dimensional life forms guarding the top-notch swamp. When Su Yiren mentioned the life form Still Flame, Lin Yuan's brows immediately relaxed. If Su Yiren needed the life form Still Flame, it would save him the trouble. There was a ready-made life form Still Flame in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. During this time, the twin red pagoda had been consuming the pure spirit chi and fire-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. A large amount of pure spirit chi and fire-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls had allowed the life form Still Flame to grow rapidly. It was already in a semi-mature state. Although the life form Still Flame produced by the twin red pagoda was far less mature than the one that Endless Summer had devoured, it should be more than enough. However, it should be more than enough to produce plant-type sacred source life forms through burning. Since the absolute love poppy only needed to be burned with the life form Still Flame instead of consuming the life form Still Flame, Lin Yuan naturally had nothing to be stingy about. After speaking, Su Yiren immediately felt that she had said something wrong. The Dark Seven States had once obtained a piece of top-notch marsh soil eternal life soil. This piece of top-notch marsh soil eternal life soil was considered a precious treasure in the entire Dark Seven States. This piece of top-notch marsh soil eternal life soil was considered a precious treasure in the entire Dark Seven States. Su Yiren had only heard of the life form Still Flame's effects and had never seen it before. Su Yiren felt that her request was a little too much. She was no longer in the Dark Seven States, and the Dark Continent had fallen. She should no longer use the vision of a dark envoy to communicate with others. However, Su Yiren did not expect that as soon as she made her request. The man on the Leo throne said naturally, "In that case, sign a contract with the Corona Australis." In that case, sign a contract with the Corona Australis throne. I will go and heal your sacred source life form, the absolute love poppy. Lin Yuan's words made Su Yiren pleasantly surprised. At the same time, she was surprised by the resources Lin Yuan had. After receiving Lin Yuan's guarantee, Su Yiren hurriedly signed a contract with the Corona Australia's throne. In Su Yiren's opinion, the more resources Lin Yuan had, the better it would be for her in the future. Just as Su Yiren signed the contract with the Corona Australia's throne, the Corona Australia's nebula above her head shone brightly. Su Yiren suddenly remembered the cell phone she had found while rummaging through the trash. Su Yiren was about to ask for Lin Yuan's phone number when he gave her a string of phone numbers. Call this number in 5 days. This number will make the next arrangements for you. Lin Yuan gave Su Yiren the 2 cell phone numbers he had selected from the 5 Dry Cliff Bandits. The Dry Cliff Bandits were small fries in the Divine Wood Federation and did not have complicated interpersonal relationships. Now that the Dry Cliff Bandits had been annihilated, no one would be able to call these 2 numbers anymore. Su Yiren had wanted to ask for Lin Yuan's phone number, but the words were already on the tip of her tongue. Su Yiren's pupils shrank when she saw Lin Yuan's ability to predict the future. As someone in a superior position, Su Yiren was well aware of how terrifying a person's thoughts could be. Lin Yuan and Wen Yu's omniscience had left a deep imprint in Su Yiren's heart. It was to let Su Yiren know that she could never lie to Lin Yuan in the future. Even if she lied, the other party would already know everything before she spoke. If Lin Yuan knew what Su Yiren was thinking now, he would definitely praise himself for giving out the phone number. In fact, the moment Su Yiren signed the contract with the Corona Australia's throne, Lin Yuan and Wen Yu had already lost the ability to perceive Su Yiren's memories. Chapter 1229. Lin Yuan had revealed his phone number because he had learned from Su Yiren's memories that she had found a cell phone and was planning to ask for his phone number. On the other hand, he had already wasted too much time communicating with Su Yiren. There was a time limit to the Celestial Body Conference, and he could not give the entire conference time to Sual. He had to take Yin Lin, Teray, and Bei Su into consideration. Therefore, he did not wait for Su Yiren to ask before giving her his phone number. After making arrangements for Su Yiren, Lin Yuan turned to Wen Yu. Upon seeing him look at her, Wen Yu's lips moved slightly. According to her lips, he knew that the Celestial Council could only hold on for 7 more minutes. Therefore Lin Yuan asked Yin Lin, "Yin Lin, let me know the demand for Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls in advance so that I can prepare in advance." Yin Lin was in the Azure Federation and wanted to develop rare coral resources. The demand for Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls was definitely the highest. If Blue and the floating island whale wanted to grow in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, they would need to constantly consume the Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls. Therefore, he planned to find out Yin Lin's needs first. Otherwise, if Blue were to eat as much as she could, it would affect the trade in the future. In fact, Yin Lin had already calculated how many Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls she could trade after the last meeting. Yin Lin had also planned to talk to Lin Yuan about this after entering the Celestial Council. Lion, the more Heavenly Maiden-grade water elemental pearls, the better. As for the other attributes, I want at least 300 of each attribute. Upon hearing Yin Lin's words, Lin Yuan was immediately shocked by Yin Lin's huge resources. There were 4 types of elemental shellfish in total. Since he wasn't sure how many Heavenly Maiden-level elemental pearls he could trade, he didn't have to worry too much about the elemental shellfish. Yin Lin was already prepared to trade 900 Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls from him. If Bai Lan wanted to comprehend will, she needed mutated water the most. After completing this transaction with Yin Lin, he would be able to obtain a large amount of strange water. With this water, Bai Lan's strength would increase by leaps and bounds. However, Lin Yuan was not satisfied with Yin Lin's answer that the more the better. There was still some time before Yin Lin arrived at the Radiance Federation. If Lin Yuan paused Blue's consumption of the water elemental pearls, given the current production of the aquamarine elemental shellfish in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, it was more than enough for him to hoard 5,000 Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls. If he really took out 5,000 heavenly maiden-grade water elemental pearls, would Lin be able to exchange for it? I have a lot of heavenly maiden-grade water elemental pearls. Give me a number, and I'll leave behind this number of heavenly maiden-grade water elemental pearls. This way, I can use the other water elemental pearls freely. I don't have to wait to trade with you and keep the other water elemental pearls in my hands. Lin immediately understood what Lin Yuan meant. Therefore, Lin lowered her head and carefully estimated the supplies that she would bring to the Radiance Federation before saying, "I'm not sure. Lion, I want to exchange 2,000 heavenly maiden-grade water elemental pearls. This time, I only got 4 top-grade mutant waters from my family, but I got a lot of advanced and intermediate mutant waters. According to my calculations, according to the Radiance Federation's price, I should be able to buy 2,900 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with a 12% premium." Lin's words made Lin Yuan's brows twitch wildly. As expected of one of the 3 great federations, Lin was worthy of being the 4th Azure envoy. The family was also worthy of being one of the 12 Azure families. They indeed had a rich foundation. He could actually get 4 top-grade mutant waters at once. Even if Lin Yuan expanded the scope and got top-grade swamp soil, extraordinary flames, and other supplies, let alone getting top-grade mutant waters. As long as Lin Yuan did not reach out to his master, the Moon Empress, he could forget about getting them easily. Once a faction obtained top-grade mutant flames, mutant waters, and swamp soil, they would not take them out unless it was a matter of life and death. For Lin to be able to take out 4 top-grade mutant waters at once, it could prove her status in the family. On the other hand, it showed that Lin attached great importance to this trade with him. Although Lin Yuan was a little uncomfortable with the premium that Lin mentioned, he did not need to take out another 12% heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls to make up for the premium. If he really did so, it would make Lin feel awkward. However, Lin thought that he was trading ordinary heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with him. Lin Yuan gave Lin all heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with Cloud Dream Lake and Fixed Bliss Life pearls. The difference was far from as simple as a 12% market premium. In just a few days, the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone had piled up a small mountain of elemental pearls. Lin Yuan's heart was abnormally full. This feeling of holding savings in his hands was really good. Tally and Bei Su were still fine listening to Lin Yuan and Lin discussing the trade. They did not have any concept of the top-grade mutant waters and heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls that Lin Yuan and Lin were talking about. With Bei Su and Tally's status, they did not have the ability to come into contact with resources of this level. However, it was different for Su Iren. Su Iren was in a state of complete shock. This trade involving 4 top-grade mutant waters and 2,900 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls shook her heart. Even when the Dark Continent's 7 federations traded resources, it would rarely involve such a huge exchange of resources at once. Su Iren only had one thought in her mind. What was the background of the people in the Heavenly Council? The last time she had come, she had realized that this gathering was essentially a function of a sacred source life form. It was fine if the Heavenly Council was powerful. If they were not powerful, they would not have a sacred source life form. However, shouldn't the members of the Heavenly Council be pitiful people who wanted to sell themselves to the Heavenly Council? How could such people take out 4 top-grade mutant waters? Under the shock of the huge resource trade, Su Iren's heart was thumping nonstop. Lin Yuan and Lin's trade made Su Iren suddenly see the hope of recovering the Dark 7 states. After communicating with Lin, Lin Yuan asked Tally, "Tally, what's the situation in your tribe?" Tally hurriedly knelt on the ground and cupped his hands at Lin Yuan. "Thank you, Master, for teaching me to become a Class 1 Creation Master. Everything is fine in our Iron Hoof tribe." According to Master's suggestion, the Iron Hoof tribe has now moved toward the border of the Divine Wood Federation. According to Master's suggestion, the Iron Hoof tribe has now moved toward the border of the Divine Wood Federation. Lin Yuan had a strange expression on his face when he heard Tally call him master. In fact, Tally was not Lin Yuan's master. Smart. If he had to call someone, Tally should also call Smart Master. Chapter 12:30. Time was of the essence, so Lin Yuan did not bother with Trey's name. He was very happy that the Iron Hoof tribe had listened to his suggestion and moved in the direction of the Divine Wood Federation. When the Iron Hoof tribe moved to the border between the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation, it would be much more convenient for him to communicate with them. Lin Yuan still wanted to rely on the Iron Hoof tribe to open up the situation in the Iron Hammer Federation. Just as Lin Yuan was about to ask about Bei Su's recent situation, Trey suddenly said, "Master, I'm now a Class 1 Creation Master." "Master, I am now a Class 1 Creation Master and can apply for tribal territories from the Imperial Court. When the time comes, you can tell me what area you like, and I'll apply to the Iron Hammer Empire. The land at the border with the Divine Wood Federation has never been valued by the Iron Hammer Empire. If I apply for the land at the border as a territory, I should be given a larger area." Upon hearing Trey's words, Lin Yuan immediately became interested. The underground palace he was currently building was at the border between the Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation. It was deserted, but it was inevitable that people would pass by. If he could divide an area at the border of the Iron Hammer Federation as a territory according to Trey's words, then the Iron Hoof tribe, where Trey was, would be building a line of defense outside his underground palace. Lin Yuan's plan for the White Bone Lotus Sea of Flowers was to make it a forbidden area for the Agon continent's adventurers to come. After his plan was implemented, the Iron Hoof tribe's territory would inevitably enter a state of rapid development due to the gathering of a large number of adventurers. With that in mind, Lin Yuan asked Trey, "If all the territories bordering the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation were divided into the Iron Hoof tribe's territory, what do you think the possibility is?" Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Trey opened his mouth in horror. He had never thought of such a question before. The land bordering the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation was not small, and it was more than enough to build a big city. However, this territory bordering the two federations was very dangerous. The Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation often fought against each other at the border or killed and looted the Deep Enlightenment Federation's caravans. This was why there had been no tribes stationed at the Iron Hammer Federation's border for so many years. Trey would lead the entire Iron Hoof tribe to migrate here without hesitation because it was Lin Yuan's suggestion. On the other hand, it was because Trey treated Lin Yuan as his master and trusted him very much. As long as Lin Yuan pointed out the path ahead, Trey's heart would not be afraid, no matter how dangerous the border region was. However, with his status as a Class 1 Creation Master, it was still possible for him to set up a plot of land with a radius of 10 kilometers. If he wanted to apply for the entire borderland from the Iron Hammer Imperial Court, he would need to be at least a Class 4 Creation Master. This was because the big cities in the Iron Hammer Federation were built around 4-star tribes. In the big cities of the Iron Hammer Federation, the 4-star tribes had absolute control. Now that Lin Yuan was interested in the entire border region, there was nothing he could do. Trey could not help but pout. "Master, if you really want the entire border area between the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation, you might have to wait for a long time. I heard from Grandfather that those Class 4 Creation Masters all have white beards." From Tally's words, Lin Yuan knew the conditions for wanting the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation's border. Previously, when Lu Jie had let the hurricane owlet moths explore the terrain, he had ordered them to fly to the limit and look down at the entire area. As a result, he found that the Iron Hammer Federation's territory was like an awl piercing into the Divine Wood Federation's hinterland. The location where his underground palace was built was where the awl pierced. This land was equivalent to the key connecting the Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation. If this key could be in his hands through official recognition, he had to try his best to take it. This would save Lin Yuan a lot of trouble. Lin Yuan naturally could not count on Trey as a Class 4 Creation Master. Putting aside whether Lin Yuan had the ability to make Trey a Class 4 Creation Master, even if he could, Lin Yuan would not do it. The appearance of an 8-year-old Class 4 creation master was enough to shock the entire Agility continent. God knew how many experts the Divine Wood Federation would send to assassinate Trey. Such an approach was equivalent to putting Trey in danger. Lin Yuan now had Master Hong Xin, Hu Tian, Old He, and Feng Shuang as his Class 4 creation masters. Any one of these 4 Class 4 creation masters could contract a disguise Fey and disguise themselves as someone from the Iron Hammer Federation to join the Iron Hoof tribe. They could claim to be Trey's teacher and take this territory from the Iron Hammer Federation's hands. A creation master's ability was reflected in nurturing Feys, improving their quality, and healing their damaged roots. It was difficult to determine if a person was a creation master from their appearance. In fact, even without Master Hong Xin, Hu Tian, Old He, and Feng Shuang did not contract disguise Feys. Even if Lin Yuan went on stage with Genius, he would probably be able to pass the Iron Hammer Federation's interview. He would become a Class 4 creation master recognized by the Iron Hammer Federation. The Deep Brahmin Federation was rich in scholars, causing the number of creation masters in the Deep Brahmin Federation to be higher than the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation. There were many examples of the Deep Brahmin Federation's high-class creation masters heading to the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation to develop. The Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation always attacked the Deep Brahmin Federation's caravans and liked to plunder their supplies. However, the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation welcomed the Deep Brahmin Federation's creation masters with both hands and feet. In an environment lacking creation masters, the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation both understood the importance of a high-class creation master to the Federation. A clan or tribe established by a high-class creation master was enough to support the development of a region and drive the strength of a region's spirit chi professionals. At that moment, Lin Yuan had a plan in his heart. However, he felt that there was no need to tell his plan to Trey at the moment. Trey, we'll talk about the territory when you move to the border. Lin Yuan knew that the Celestial Council only had about 2 minutes left before the end. Lin Yuan hurriedly turned his head to Bei Su. Bei Su had just opened up in the underground world and had a stomach full of things to say to Lin Yuan. In the end, Bei Su had only found a chance to talk to Lin Yuan since the beginning. However, Lin Yuan did not give Bei Su this chance. In the last 2 minutes, Lin Yuan used the Celestial Council's functional astral throne to send Bei Su a resource that he thought Bei Su needed most to survive in the underground world. This resource was the Heaven and Earth Fei, the Sun Reflection King Lotus. Bei Su's current spirit chi professional rank was stuck there, so Lin Yuan could no longer use the teleportation spirit fluid to continue enhancing Bei Su's Fei's strength. Chapter 12:31. After giving Bei Su the Spear Shadow Dark Bat, Lin Yuan also gave Bei Su a Source-type Life Formation Rock Crystal. Before Bei Su comprehended more willpower runes, Lin Yuan no longer needed to prepare any more Feis for him. Although the sun couldn't be seen in the underground world, the light that seeped through the rock layer was enough for the Sun Reflection King Lotus to absorb. At night, the Sun Reflection King Lotus could release the light it absorbed during the day and illuminate the space. With this sun-reflecting Pearl Monarch Lotus, Bei Su had the qualifications to establish a base. Moreover, because the Reflection Sun Monarch Lotus could be moved at will, Bei Su didn't have to stay in one place to seek development. This greatly increased Bei Su's initiative in establishing a stronghold. Upon seeing cold sweat seeping out of Wen Yu's forehead, Lin Yuan quickly said to Bei Su, "You should like this little gift." The words stopped, the group of stars dissipated, and the dreamer also woke up from his dream. In the end, Wen Yu's rest time was too short. She left the Celestial Council after exhausting her mental strength. Wen Yu swayed and fell to the side. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan hurriedly supported Wen Yu and handed her a few pieces of the roasted angelfish of bliss skin. After taking a small bite of the fish coat, the dizziness in Wen Yu's head gradually subsided. Lin Yuan, who had checked on Wen Yu's condition, spoke to her in a rare tone. "I'll go to the Star Web territory in a while and wait for the veteran faction, the Blissful Sea Clan, to find us. Go and have a good rest." Next time before the celestial assembly, you must ensure that you have sufficient rest. Otherwise, a long period of mental exhaustion will cause damage to your mind and affect the speed at which your mental power increases. Wen Yu had never seen him with such a strong attitude before. Upon hearing that, Wen Yu gently stuck out her tongue. For some reason, Lin Yuan's aggressiveness suddenly caused ripples in her heart. Wen Yu hurriedly said honestly, "Young master, I'll immediately return to my room and have a good rest after eating these fish coats. I'll sleep until tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, I'll be able to completely recover my overdrawn mental strength." Upon hearing Wen Yu's assurance, Lin Yuan's tone softened. "The mother of bloodbath specially left a lot of grilled chicken wings for you. Big brother Lu also left some fish balls that he beat this morning. I'll make you a bowl of fishball noodles. You eat first before you sleep. Otherwise, how can I not eat for a day?" After saying that, Lin Yuan got up and left the training room for the kitchen. In order to cook a meal for his master, the Moon Empress, during the new year, he had specially learned cooking skills from Lu Jia. In addition, he had been cooking since he was young to support himself and Chu Ci. The following matters were not difficult for Lin Yuan at all. With Lu Jia's soup and fish balls, the taste would definitely not be worse than Lu Jia's. In fact, in order to save money in the Xia region, Lin Yuan might even be a little more skilled than Lu Jia at cooking noodles. When Wen Yu went downstairs after eating the fish coat, she saw Lin Yuan walking out of the kitchen with fish ball noodles and chicken wings. Wen Yu hurriedly went up and took the cutlery from him. Wen Yu was chosen to be by Lin Yuan's side as an assistant. However, Wen Yu's ability as a creation master could not help Lin Yuan at all. Lu Jia also took care of everyone's meals. Therefore, Wen Yu had to work hard on her clothes. Now that she saw her young master taking the initiative to do it for her, Wen Yu's eyes suddenly became hot. When Lin Yuan saw her lowering her head and starting to eat the noodles, he could not help but feel a little strange. He did not know why Wen Yu lowered her head like an ostrich when eating the noodles. She was just short of putting her entire face into the bowl. Lin Yuan got up and sat on the water rhinoceros leather sofa. He simply logged into Star Web with his Star Web card. As Sky City's city lord, Lin Yuan could not remember how long it had been since he had entered Star Web's Sky City's private territory. Ever since Lin Yuan had built this territory, he had become a hands-off boss. He had thrown the entire territory to Wen Yu. It now seemed that the entire territory was managed by Wen Yu in an orderly manner, and the territory's exterior also maintained its original style. There were no decorations placed. This territory was still full of people like when Sky City's private territory had just been opened. Of course, these people were not here to snatch the fate letter. They had already finished snatching the fate letter in the morning. These people had formed teams to visit the interior layout of Sky City's Star Web private faction territory. Lin Yuan could not help but scratch the back of his head and thought to himself, "My Sky City's private faction territory is about to become a Star Web attraction." He opened the Star Web private territory list, and his Sky City was impressively ranked 7th on the visitors list. It had to be known that Sky City only issued 100 fate letters every day. The other territories that functioned as chambers of commerce had to receive hundreds of thousands of merchants every day. This showed how many people came to Sky City's private territory every day. After Lin Yuan arrived at the Star Web private territory, many people recognized his identity based on the mask on his face. Lin Yuan had come to the private faction territory this time to wait for the veteran faction, the Sea of Bliss, to come to him. Therefore, even if Lin Yuan did not want to change the tone of Sky City's Star Web private territory, he had no choice but to set up an entrance guard. Of course, after setting up the entrance guard, Lin Yuan's attitude was not as strong as the Sea of Bliss's people, who had directly kicked out the rest of the people in the territory. Lin Yuan quietly waited for the people watching inside Sky City to leave. As for those who had no intention of leaving, Lin Yuan went forward to remind them. Half an hour later, Sky City's Star Web private faction territory was empty. Lin Yuan sat on the chair and fiddled with the Oath Lily of the Valley, waiting for the Sea of Bliss's Qi Wangyang and Qi Haitao to come to him. A faint layer of moon suddenly appeared in the afternoon sky. A full moon slowly appeared in the moon. However, the afternoon sun was still dazzling, making it difficult for ordinary people to notice the changes in the sky. The full moon in the moon palace was constantly changing from gloomy to bright, round, and waning, illuminating the world. Mystic Moon was in the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace and looked at Cicada Ming speechlessly. She did not know what important things Cicada Ming had to hand to the Moon Empress in person and was not even willing to pass it on her behalf. If it was someone else, Mystic Moon would have already chased them out. However, Cicada Ming and the Moon Empress were both Her Majesties, and they had a close personal relationship. Mystic Moon did not have the qualifications to chase Cicada Ming out. However, the Moon Empress was in seclusion. Cicada Ming was in the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace, which was only separated from the Moon Shadow Corridor. Mystic Moon felt that something was wrong. Suddenly, Mystic Moon saw Cicada Ming's eyes turn solemn as he stared in the direction of the Moon Empress' sleeping quarters. The lotus flowers in the lotus pond in the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace closed their flower buds, and their stems were no longer as straight as before. Chapter 1232. In fact, it wasn't just the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace. All the flowers on the leaning moon mountain that had been tainted with the Moon Empress aura had closed their flower buds and hung their leaves. At a glance, it looked as if it was crying. Xianyu noticed this and a worried expression appeared on her face. At this time, Xianyu could hear the cicada's voice sounding solemn. A myriad of beauties mourn together. The Moon Empress is too anxious. It's not that easy to take that step. Every attempt will cause you to sink into oblivion for 5 years. I can try dozens of times, but how will you have the chance to try again? Xianyu didn't think much of Cicada Cry's words at first. Xianyu's heart skipped a beat when she heard the latter half of the sentence. What did Cicada Cry mean? What did he mean by the Moon Empress wouldn't have a second chance? Just as Mystic Moon disregarded propriety and was about to ask Cicada Ming, he suddenly recalled the changes that had happened to the Moon Empress in the past 10 years. The Moon Empress transformation stunned Mystic Moon. Mystic Moon had been by the Moon Empress side for half a century. After half a century of interaction, Mystic Moon understood the Moon Empress better than he understood himself. 10 years flashed through Mystic Moon's mind, and he realized that the unforeseen event 10 years ago had changed the Moon Empress completely. Previously, the Moon Empress had the arrogance of looking down on the world and lofty aspirations. It was so arrogant and dazzling. Any prodigy would feel inferior when compared to the Moon Empress. However, in the past decade, apart from accepting disciples, the Moon Empress hadn't done anything major. He only focused on improving his strength in seclusion. In Mystic Moon's understanding, the Moon Empress' astounding strength wasn't due to her hard work. It was because the Moon Empress had an innate talent that other experts couldn't imagine. The Moon Empress' innate talent had determined that she could easily become a top-notch expert in the world. Furthermore, after the Moon Empress accepted the Young Highness as her disciple, she had been planning for the Young Highness every step of the way. This didn't match the Moon Empress' temperament from 10 years ago. If the Moon Empress had accepted the Young Highness as her disciple 10 years ago, she would have let the Young Highness roam freely. Just like how Supreme Chef treated Zhongzhe, he was only responsible for wiping His Highness's ass when he got into trouble. Only when His Highness had a clear understanding of the world would he pave the way for His Highness. It would never be like now, when the Little Highness was only 18 years old and had not seen the world yet, but he was already scheming for the Little Highness. The last time His Highness was in danger, he was trapped in the water world dimensional rift outside Indigo Azure City. When the Moon Empress found out that Pagoda Cannon was the culprit, according to the Moon Empress temperament, the Pagoda Cannon was the culprit. Even if the Moon Empress didn't dote on the young lord at all, she would still personally descend and clash with the Pagoda Cannon. Moreover, the Moon Empress doted on the young lord so much. 15 years ago, they had yet to experience that storm. It was Seventh Page War's first time in the Radiance Federation. At that time, Seventh Page War had yet to cause trouble in the Radiance Federation. This was because when Seventh Page War drove the sacred source life form, the Radiant Chariot, over the Leaning Moon Mountain, the aura of the Radiant Chariot affected the vegetation on the Leaning Moon Mountain. As a result, the bright moon hung in the sky beside the blazing sun that should have been hanging high at noon. The bright moon in the sky suddenly fell from the dome like a waterfall of moonlight, smashing Seventh Page War into a sorry state. Even the Seventh Page War's sacred source life form, the Radiant Chariot, was hit with cracks. If not for the second page revival of the Pagoda Cannon, which was hidden in the dark, helping Seventh Page War escape, the Moon Empress would not have easily let Seventh Page War leave. This was the case 15 years ago, but 15 years later, the Moon Empress had endured the situation after learning about it. The various changes made Mystic Moon's heart clench. The anxious Mystic Moon only had one thought. Could something have happened to the Moon Empress during that incident 10 years ago that she didn't know about? At that moment, the Moon Empress was sitting in front of the bed. Moonlight constantly spread out from the moon pattern on the Moon Empress' forehead. The Moon Empress' long hair and eyebrows were all dyed the color of the clear moon. In between breaths, the Moon Empress spat out thousands of rays of moonlight, making her look like an extraordinary person. At that moment, the Moon Empress' tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. When the Moon Empress opened her eyes, there was a trace of unyielding arrogance. However, slowly, the Moon Empress' arrogance gradually became complicated. Little White Rabbit, who was lying obediently on the Moon Empress' knee, quickly handed over its carrot to the Moon Empress. It looked as though it didn't want the carrot anymore and was giving it all to the Moon Empress. Upon seeing this, the Moon Empress revealed a cold smile. The Moon Empress gently pushed the carrot that Little White Rabbit had handed over. "Zishi, it's useless. My soul's power has been depleted. Without enough soul power, I can no longer use my life providence to see how to walk on that path to heaven." As she spoke, the moon pattern on the Moon Empress' forehead gradually dimmed. The Moon Empress paused for a moment before continuing. "The life providence will be locked. After the life providence is locked, it will be silent for 5 years. Zishi, this is my life." At this point, the Moon Empress did not continue speaking. Instead, she lowered her head and looked at her white and slender palms. The Moon Empress had been breaking through one after another and had never tasted failure. This was the first time she tasted failure during a breakthrough. However, this first failure would be the end of everything. At that moment, the sound of cicadas accompanied by a gust of wind entered the Moon Empress' sleeping quarters. The sound of cicadas echoed, and it was as though several cicadas were separated from the sound. When each cicada flapped its wings and sang, it was as though it was weaving a world filled with soul power with musical notes. One cicada, one world, one song, one Bodhi. Tens of thousands of Bodhi lights appeared beside the Moon Empress. The Bodhi sprouts grew into giant trees and bore Bodhi seeds, which then fell on the Moon Empress' body. Every Bodhi seed that fell would replenish the Moon Empress' exhausted soul power. The gust of wind lingered around the Bodhi tree. It was originally a head-on wind, but it calmed the Moon Empress' fluctuating mind. With the help of the cicada's sound and the gust of wind, the Moon Empress' soul power was instantly restored. The Moon Empress immediately closed her eyes again. During this period of time when her life providence was about to be sealed, the Moon Empress closed her eyes. During the period when the life providence was about to be locked, the Moon Empress launched a final attack on the path to heaven. At that moment, Cicada, who was in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace, was off the ground, and the gust of wind surrounded Cicada's body. Cicada's hand was holding a cicada that was constantly shaking its wings and chirping. At that moment, a dragon horn grew out of Mystic Moon's head, and its body was covered in silver patterns. However, Mystic Moon, who had entered combat mode, was firmly bound to the spot by a gust of wind. Cicada lowered its head and said to Mystic Moon, "Lotus 32. 32 lotuses 23-year cicada. In order to help the Moon Empress, I passed the kind cicada's sound that the kind cicada had accumulated for 23 years to the Moon Empress. You should know what my kind cicada's effect is. ABC. Chapter 1233. I'm helping the Moon Empress, so retract your aura. Otherwise, if your aura erupts, it might distract the Moon Empress, who is fighting against the heavens. Xianxu's eyes flickered when she heard the first half of Cicada Cry's words. However, he had no intention of stopping. The second half of the cicada's words made Xianxu struggle for a moment. He decisively dispersed the aura on his body. Mystic Moon had a certain understanding of Cicada Cry's signature fey, the kind voyage cicada. Among the 13 His Eminences, only His Eminence Cicada Cry was a pure support-type spirit chi professional. Every year that the cicada of Merciful Boar accumulated its melody of Merciful Boar, it could help the target recover their soul energy once. The fact that Cicada Cry was willing to give all the compassionate voice of the cicada of the Merciful Voyage, which had been accumulated for 23 years, to the Moon Empress meant that Cicada Cry didn't have any bad intentions. Not only did Cicada Cry give the Moon Empress 23 years of compassionate voice, but it also activated the sacred source life form, intent dispelling wind. Every time the sacred source life form's intent unraveling wind was used, it would reduce 1% of the owner's lifespan. Mystic Moon, who had calmed down, knew that Cicada Cry had sacrificed so much and was even willing to consume his lifespan. It was impossible for him to harm the Moon Empress. At the same time, Xianxu was secretly shocked by Cicada Cry's strength. In that instant, Cicada Cry had suppressed him to the point where he couldn't move. This meant that Cicada Cry and the Moon Empress had both taken that step and were much stronger than him. According to the strength of the pressure, Mystic Moon was basically certain that Cicada Cry's strength was inferior to the Moon Empress. But it wouldn't be too far off. Just as Mystic Moon was about to ask Cicada Cry why the Moon Empress didn't have a second chance, the Moon Empress figure had already passed through the Moon Shadow Corridor and arrived at the inner palace. At that moment, the Moon Empress, who was hugging the bunny, was no different from usual. Seeing Chan Mingyue floating in midair, he said, "Against the wind, Jie, Cicada Ming, you've made a lot of progress these past few years." Hearing this, Cicada Cry raised his hand and a blazing yellow wood box appeared in his hand. Upon seeing the box made of blazing yellow wood, the Moon Empress' eyes flickered with an indescribable emotion. Mystic Moon handed the blazing yellow wooden box to the Moon Empress and said, "This is the geocentric jade milk the old man gave you. After drinking this drop of geocentric jade milk, it will increase your lifespan by 1 year. I'll leave first. Take care." For the Moon Empress to come out so quickly meant that she had failed to break through to that realm. Fickle people were often the most emotional. Cicada Cry, who knew that the Moon Empress did not have much lifespan left, did not wish to stay in the Radiant Moon Palace any longer and see an old friend who would turn into bones in a few years' time. Cicada Cry, who had always been calm, could not help but feel an urge to charge into the Freedom Federation and start a massacre. The Moon Empress looked at the blazing yellow wood box in her hand with a complicated expression. "Thanks for this time. I owe you a favor. I will return it in the future. Also, thank the old man for me." After the cicadas left, the frantic Mystic Moon couldn't help but ask the Moon Empress, "Moon Empress, your body." The Moon Empress handed the blazing yellow wooden box to Xianxu and said, "All right. This time, I failed to break through to the next realm. My fate will be dormant for 5 years, and my lifespan will be shortened. I still have 3 years. Send this drop of geocentric immortal milk to Little Yuan when he returns from the Divine Wood Federation." Mystic Moon panicked when he heard the Moon Empress words. Xianxu had never heard of any of this before. However, now was clearly not the time to dwell on this issue. The Moon Empress did not have much lifespan left. If the Moon Empress used this drop of geocentric immortal milk, her lifespan would immediately increase by 1 year. Under such circumstances, why didn't the Moon Empress use the geocentric immortal milk herself? Why did she give the geocentric immortal milk to His Highness? Could it be because the geocentric immortal milk could cleanse the body of impurities and allow it to be reborn? Even Mystic Moon, who had always been obedient to the Moon Empress, couldn't help but suggest stubbornly, "Moon Empress, I feel that this geocentric immortal milk should be used by you. The little prince is still young. With the little prince's talent, even without the geocentric jade milk, there will be a chance for him to shed his mortal body in the future, Yang Kai said. The Moon Empress looked up at the sky when she heard Mystic Moon's words. With the help of Cicada Cry's main fae, the compassionate cicada, and the sacred source life form, the intent unraveling wind, the Moon Empress had once again used her life providence to attack the path to heaven. In the end, the Moon Empress actually managed to see through some of the secrets of the path to heaven with her final attack. The Moon Empress felt that it was very likely that she would be able to see through the path to heaven the next time her life providence was revived. However, the Moon Empress also knew that her lifespan couldn't wait any longer. Even if he took this geocentric jade milk, he still wouldn't be able to wait for the next 5 years. Treasures like the geocentric jade milk that could increase one's lifespan were not to be eaten casually. After a person took the geocentric jade milk, a treasure that could increase their lifespan, they would need a period of time to digest the medicinal efficacy of the treasure. In other words, once the geocentric jade milk was consumed, it would take 3 to 4 years to completely increase 1 year of lifespan. Not to mention that treasures like the geocentric jade milk that could increase one's lifespan were hard to find. Even if it was easy to find, the Moon Empress wouldn't be able to use other life-extending treasures to extend her lifespan for 3 to 4 years after consuming the geocentric jade milk. His fate was set. No matter how proud the Moon Empress was, she had to acknowledge her fate. In the Moon Empress' opinion, giving this drop of geocentric jade milk to Lin Yuan was the best choice. In the last moments of her life, the Moon Empress' only hope was to see Lin Yuan grow step by step, to become a Radiance envoy and to become a happy person. It was also the Moon Empress who would groom Lin Yuan into a Radiance envoy. In the last moments of his life, it was the most meaningful thing he could do for the entire Radiance Federation. Upon seeing Mystic Moon's worried expression, the Moon Empress explained softly, "Only Cicada Cry and the old man know about my body's condition. It's fine if you find out about this matter from Cicada Cry, but don't tell little Yuan and Cold Moon. Mystic Moon, you should be clear about the impact this matter will have on others." When Mystic Moon heard the determination in the Moon Empress' words, he quickly swallowed his words. Looking at the blazing yellow wooden box in his hand, Mystic Moon said, "Moon Empress, His Highness called you in the morning. Moon Empress, His Young Highness called you in the morning. Why don't I inform His Highness now? Why don't I inform His Highness now? Originally, we agreed to inform His Highness as soon as you come out of seclusion." Mystic Moon felt that in this world, only Lin Yuan would be able to persuade the Moon Empress. However, the Moon Empress had clearly said that she didn't want him to tell Lin Yuan about this matter. If it was in the past, Mystic Moon would definitely listen to the Moon Empress' instructions. However, in order for the Moon Empress to live for 1 more year, Mystic Moon couldn't care so much anymore. Mystic Moon had already decided to inform Lin Yuan about this matter, even if he would be punished by the Moon Empress. Chapter 1234. When the Moon Empress heard that, a trace of gentleness flashed in her eyes. "In that case, you don't have to worry. There are still a few hours before dinner. Little Yuan hasn't had dinner with me in the Radiant Moon Palace for a long time. Little Yuan can come to the Radiant Moon Palace to have a meal with me tonight." Before her fate was decided, the Moon Empress would rarely take the initiative to look for Lin Yuan to have a meal in the Radiant Moon Palace. It was true that the Moon Empress liked Lin Yuan to be by her side, but she also hoped that Lin Yuan could fight for a bright future outside. But now, fate had been decided, and there was no turning back. As an expert who relied on strength to speak, the Moon Empress understood what it meant to die. He knew that everything ended after death. There was no such thing as an afterlife. At the thought of the remaining 3 years of lifespan, the Moon Empress only hoped that Lin Yuan could come to the Radiant Moon Palace a few more times when he had the time without affecting him. As her disciple, Lin Yuan was undoubtedly the person closest to the Moon Empress. Upon hearing the Moon Empress' words, Mystic Moon's nose involuntarily turned sour. The current Moon Empress gave Mystic Moon a feeling of a hero past her prime. Based on the Moon Empress realm, she was in the prime of her life. The Moon Empress, who was in her prime, had no choice but to guard her remaining 3 years of lifespan. However, there was nothing Xianyu could do about it. If possible, Mystic Moon was even willing to exchange lifespan with the Moon Empress. 3 years later, his lifespan would be exhausted and he would die. The more he saw the relieved expression on the Moon Empress' face, the more his heart ached. Xianyu, who couldn't bear to look at the Moon Empress' expression, tilted her head and said softly, "Moon Empress, His Young Highness is here to enjoy the evening meal. I'll order my men to go and prepare." Upon hearing that, the Moon Empress placed the listless Zishi on the jade table. "Why don't we just let little Yuan consume the geocentric immortal milk tonight? After taking the geocentric immortal milk, little Yuan should be able to contract the golden wing. In order for little Yuan to perfectly absorb the geocentric immortal milk, we need to add more soul-protecting spirit ingredients to our dinner tonight. This empress has nothing to do, so let this empress prepare dinner. Xianyu, come and help me." Upon hearing that, Mystic Moon knew that she could not take this opportunity to inform Lin Yuan. Seeing that the Moon Empress was still walking with her usual firm and noble steps, Mystic Moon's throat tightened. "Moon Empress, Black Moon will accompany you 3 years later." Upon hearing Mystic Moon's words, the Moon Empress immediately reprimanded. "Xianyu, what nonsense are you talking about? After I leave, you will still have a life that belongs to you. I won't make plans for your future, but I still hope that you can help little Yuan more." As she spoke, the Moon Empress could not help but think of Lin Yuan's performance during the Blood Oath Extreme Duel in Sky City. In just a few short months, Sky City had developed from obscurity to a behemoth in his hands. The Moon Empress' heart was filled with gratification and pride. Hearing this, Xianyu's usually clear and bright face couldn't help but become excited again. "Moon Empress, you didn't allow me to tell Cold Moon and the Young Highness about this. You know Tsongyu's temper the best. Once Tsongyu finds out, she will definitely make the same choice as me. Also, Lin Yuan is your disciple. Your feelings for the Young Highness are the same as the Young Highness' feelings for you. If the Young Highness is in danger and has only 3 years of lifespan left, will you accept it?" Upon hearing Mystic Moon's words, the Moon Empress turned to look at Mystic Moon deeply and didn't say anything else. Mystic Moon and Cold Moon had both accepted disciples. After 3 years, the bonds between Mystic Moon and Wenyu, as well as Cold Moon and Chu Ci, would become deeper. At that time, Mystic Moon and Cold Moon would make the right choice. As for Lin Yuan, the Moon Empress had considered many aspects before making her choice. If she told Lin Yuan about her situation, would he still feel at ease using the geocentric jade milk? If she told Lin Yuan after he drank the geocentric jade milk, he would definitely not feel good. Lin Yuan had just turned 18 this year, and the next 3 years would be the 3 years where he would improve the fastest. During these 3 years, the Moon Empress could still protect Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress didn't want Lin Yuan to have any distractions because of her. It would affect Lin Yuan's progress in the next 3 years. The Moon Empress had prepared sumptuous ingredients for tonight's dinner. After the jade-pecking blood swallow evolved to suzerain, the bird's nest would also have the quality of jade. After the jade-pecking blood swallow's jade-like bird's nest was stewed, it could replenish one's blood qi for a period of time. It was just like a blood pump for blood production. The jade-pecking blood swallow's bird's nest was comparable to the life-form silence among the fire-type spiritual ingredients. At present, there were 16 or 17 other ingredients that were on the same level as the jade-pecking blood swallow's nest. If any of these ingredients were to appear in the world, it would cause a huge uproar in the outside world and cause various factions to fight over them. In the origin world, countries that had good relations with each other would often give each other national gifts. Any one of these ingredients was enough to be given as a national gift to a foreign country. It was obvious how precious these ingredients were. Seeing how the Moon Empress handled these ingredients without blinking, Mystic Moon knew how much she was willing to give Lin Yuan. If the Moon Empress used these ingredients herself, she definitely wouldn't use so many at once. However, when it came to Lin Yuan, the Moon Empress would not care about the usage and cost of these precious ingredients. However, in order for Lin Yuan to perfectly absorb the geocentric jade milk's energy and shed his mortal body, every ingredient here was indispensable. He saw that the Moon Empress was determined to let Lin Yuan consume the geocentric jade milk tonight. Mystic Moon increasingly felt that she should personally make a trip to the return from faraway mansion and explain the Moon Empress situation to Lin Yuan. While Mystic Moon was pondering, he didn't know that the Moon Empress had already seen through his thoughts. Xian Yu looked at the time and said to the Moon Empress, "Moon Empress, it's getting late. I will go invite the young lord now." Just as Mystic Moon finished speaking, the Moon Empress looked at Mystic Moon and spoke meaningfully. "Xian Yu, you handle the ingredients here. This Empress will personally call little Yuan. I've already made up my mind. Don't disappoint me tonight." After speaking, the Moon Empress turned and left the kitchen. Looking at the Moon Empress back view, Mystic Moon's eyes revealed a mournful expression. Lin Yuan was already in Sky City's private faction territory, waiting for the Blissful Sea clan's current family head, Qi Wangyang, and young family head, Qi Haitao. Qi Wangyang and Qi Haitao carefully stood in front of Lin Yuan. However, their heads were lowered, and their expressions weren't looking good. Qi Wangyang's forehead was covered in fine cold sweat. At that moment, Lin Yuan was looking at Qi Wangyang and Qi Haitao as though he was looking at fools. "Exciting, truly exciting. Your Blissful Sea clan is really scheming. Are you treating our Sky City as fools?" 166 Reading Network. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.